we're not taking. Are we taking a break? Are we gonna do?
No,
do
we
you wanna
we
do
should just do one
official?
thing. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Millennial Gaming
Hi,
Speak,
YouTube.
episode 74.
You don't want to split personal and official lists up?
We could. I mean, now that we're doing it this way, you could almost like manufacture your own breaks.
Could.
I mean, we'll still do it normally. I mean, if you want to take a break, I'll just say we're taking a break, stop, and then we could immediately start again, like literally like 5 seconds later.
It's up to you, buddy.
It's up to you. You're the one who's going to be messing with it. Do you still want to add a break? We'll add a break. Here's what we're going to do. We'll add a break, and I want you to add your favorite song from 2016 as the break music.
Any song?
Your favorite song.
I know, but
from last
are we
year.
like video game music?
Oh,
or...
yeah. Not like Childish Gambino's Redbone. No, nothing like that.
That wasn't my favorite song of the year, but okay. Yeah, my favorite video game song.
Yeah, your favorite song from gaming last year. From video games. So it'd go with the game of the year. And I'll actually mention that before we go to break as well. So I think I know how we're gonna do this. We'll save actual game of the year for a second. We'll do that second.
So we'll do our personal stuff up front.
Mm-hmm.
I know I was spelling that wrong.
And so it'll be like normal. We'll do well, we're gonna do a quick pit stops with a few things first, which I'll bring up to you. It's nothing big, but then we'll get right into our favorites and stuff like that. So we should be all good.
Okay. Do you want this episode to go live immediately?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's fine. Since we're doing 2 this week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then make sure you tell the people that we're still doing a regular episode on Sunday.
Hi, people. This is an emergency episode. Not really emergency, but
yeah, but you know,
we're just
audio...
giving you more this week. I'm actually kind of glad. I was like itching to podcast.
Like, no, I know the feeling because we have new toys to play with. That's what it is.
Well, that for one, definitely. And then like last night too, I was just bored. I was like, kind of want to like record something, but we'll probably start hating it soon, maybe.
Yeah, so we can tell the people that we're going to do a regular episode this Sunday, and we're going to do some Switch predictions. The Switch itself. Well, I mean, technically the Switch itself, but the event.
Talk about
Yes, Mass Effect news that dropped today, which isn't all that surprising, but
no,
it is. It's not surprising. It is, what's the word? It's like reassuring.
Mm-hmm. Like they are doubling down on it, and that's really, really, really close. Again, we can talk about that. We'll talk about that.
About the game, and it's anyway. Yeah. Blah 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 blah. Because you ready?
It's gonna go gold soon. So yeah, I'm good if you are.
All right, I'll pull up my list right here on the right-hand side of my monitor, and I'm ready to go.
Awesome.
I was born ready.
I still don't know what my 5th spot is going to be for our actual game of the year. I've got it down to 2.
Okay, buddy.
One or the other.
Bring it on.
All right. Let's just get quiet now, and then we'll just go.
Yeah, sure.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode number 74 of Millennial Gaming Speak. This is a very special episode. This is our 2016 Game of the Year episode. We've been talking about it for a few weeks now. It's finally here. Max and myself this week are going to count down the best games of last year. And Max is here this week. Hi, Max.
I am here this week. I was trying to think of some fanfare to throw in there when you said 2016 Game of the Year. The only thing that could come to mind was the idea of the 20th Century Fox fanfare at the beginning of all their movies. Thank you. But the problem that I was like, all I could think of was, I know there's fanfare before 20th Century Fox films, but how does it go? This happened to me actually earlier today at work. I was working, and one of my coworkers, my buddy Sam, he likes to try and get songs stuck in my head before shifts or during shifts. And You're Welcome from the film Moana. But today he tried to get he succeeded. He got All Star stuck in my head, which is
the Smash Mouth classic.
I know the iconic Smash Mouth classic. And I could not, I don't know the technical term for it in music, but the term, like after they sing the chorus twice, I think it's the bridge. It's the thing at the end, like in the middle, toward the end of the song. In All Star, it's the case where it's the guy who needs to change. He's like, I need some feel myself, and we could all use a little change. I couldn't think of the beginning of that part and the end of that part. Like I was stuck in this infinite tortured echo chamber of just that line, and I couldn't.
Are you gonna sing Smash Mouth's All Star for us right now? Karaoke live on the show, Game of the Year episode. This is how we open it up. This is how we're gonna open the show up, like the Oscars opens it up with a musical number. Except Max is gonna sing Smash Mouth's All Star for you all.
Somebody once told me the world was gonna roll me. Yeah.
Great job. There we go. That's the exciting intro we needed. So
she
Max
was looking kind of dumb with her finger and her thumb.
Max is just gonna keep
in the shape of an L on her forehead. Bum, bum. All right, now I can stop.
So Max, in 2016, the games started coming and they didn't stop coming. Back to the something, and they
hit the ground running.
All right, enough of that. We're gonna get caught up in that. Game of the Year. Let's be prim and proper now, because we got to be all. This is our suit and tux, our suit and tie show.
It's Justin Timberlake's song.
Our Justin Timberlake.
Justin Timberlake's "The Bomb."
That's a great album. His 2020 experience. Yeah, that's right.
I don't know. I only know one song by Justin.
Experience sounded weird. We're not talking about anything game related right now. So yeah, this is a special episode. If you are watching us live, hey, what's up? We're on YouTube. How's it going? We're recording this on Wednesday, which is normally when we put our MP3s up, and we did do that today. Episode 73 is live for all you MP3 folk, so you can go over there and find that and listen to that today on iTunes or SoundCloud. We were talking
about our game predictions, anticipations.
Yeah, that was what last.
Which I was organizing my files on my hard drive today, and I was cleaning up the Millennial Gaming Speak folder, and I almost said Metal Gear Solid folder there.
The Metal Gear Solid folder.
The Millennial Gaming Speak folder, and or was just episode number here, just list down. I was like, I gotta make this short, so I did it by year. Where we started and stopped years and things like that. But I found out we did the exact same thing last year, last year. Pardon me, with predictions and then a Game of the Year episode, like right next to each other. So yeah, we're doing the same exact thing.
And we didn't even try to. We're not even paying attention to last year's. We just make this whole show up as we go week to week. Whatever we feel is good for the next week is what we do. Yeah, so it's not as organized as you might think.
Speaking of peeking behind the curtain,
yes,
if I may,
yes, go ahead.
The audio version of the show with a new method that allows us to record all the audio on one computer instead of splitting it up. Technical. We're going to see how this all sounds. If this works the way I certainly hope it does, we'll have much more easy time getting guests on the show as far as the editing process goes. Not that we had a hard time getting people on the show.
Yeah.
But the editing process becomes full, and the application can even let us like put in sound bites and other things. So we can possibly start getting fancy if this trial run episode pans out the way I certainly hope it does.
Yeah, we're going to see how it goes. If there is a dip in audio quality or anything like that, so we're using yours right now, which means your voice is being natively recorded. Mine is coming through the power of the internet like normal. So if there is like a dip in audio, then when it's these shows where it's just you and I, we may go back to the other way.
Right.
Things I was thinking, just it's not hard to do. But this does
Not
help us
hard.
with guests in the
It's
future.
tedious
For
at
sure.
a certain point.
Yeah. And so we've always talked about how we like having guests on the show. And we do from time to time. We haven't much in probably the past 2 months, I would say. But this software definitely allows us to get guests on the show easier than normal because we don't have to say, hey, can you record this on Audacity? And then, hey, can you send us that MP3 file? And it's just a lot less hoops for the guests to jump through. And when we have people on the show,
we've always really
the last thing we want them to do. Yeah. The last thing we want them to do is have to do a bunch of chores in order to put the podcast together. We just want them to come here.
We
and
really
enjoy
want it.
themselves.
We really want them to just pop on and pop off. You know,
Yes.
we don't want to make them work. So hopefully this works out the way we certainly hope it does. And if so, we actually have a June and then hopefully a few more rolling in after that. So anyway, that's your peek behind the curtain. Now we're going to close the curtain and it's back to our booming.
So back to just some quick housekeeping before we do move on. So we're recording this on Wednesday. We're going to put this MP3 up, I think, as soon as possible. So as soon as we're done with this, we're probably going to throw it up onto our iTunes and SoundCloud page. So you're going to be getting 2 MP3s back to back this week. 2 shows this week. Congratulations.
Hope you enjoy them.
The reason we're doing that is because next week's Switch event is coming, and we always, before the big events, everybody does, whether it be Xbox, Nintendo, or Sony, PlayStation, I guess. We like to do predictions episodes, and that's something that we have not done for this Switch event, which is happening next Thursday. So we decided that we would do this episode tonight, Game of the Year, keep that in one confined episode. So everything Game of the Year related and 2016 related is all right here. And then our next episode will be a more normal episode where we'll talk about the news. A couple things happened today.
There's already some news.
So that we'll go over that Sunday. And then in the back half of Sunday's show, we will do our predictions for the Switch event next week and what we expect to see.
That's episode 74 for prosperity's sake.
All right. That'll be 75. This is 74. This is 74.
Oh, we're counting this as 74. We're not just doing this as Game of the Year 2016.
No, we're just going to do this is 74. So this is what you're listening to. This is 74. 75 will be our Switch predictions, and then 76 will be our
breakdown
briefing. Yeah. Yep.
Can you?
So, yeah, I was gonna say any news stuff we'll say for Sunday or Switch related talk we'll say for Sunday. So yeah, we wanted to do this today just to get this out of the way. This is definitely the episode we've been talking about for probably about a month now.
Kind of teasing it, name dropping it.
Yeah, so let's get right into it.
Tell the people how it works.
So I talked about it a little bit on 73. We're going to do a little bit something kind of different. Last year we just did top 5 games for both Max and myself, and then we did honorable mentions. This year we're doing a little bit similar to that. We've got it split into 2 different lists, though, and this was mainly something that I have been thinking of because when I do my Game of the Year list, I have a list in my head that is my favorite games that I played this year, and then I have a list that is the games that I objectively think are the games of the year, like the games that define 2016, whether they be the best, the most important, whatever that may mean, whatever I consider game of the year to be in my head, that is what those games are. So a lot of times what I consider a game of the year game to be is not necessarily a favorite game of mine. So this year we've split it up into 2 different categories. We're going to have our top 5 favorite games of 2016 and then our top 5 games of the year for 2016. So there's going to be 2 different lists that both me and Max will be breaking down. There may be some crossover between them. The heck, maybe our favorite is also the one that we think is objectively the best as well, which could happen in either of our cases. But yeah, so we're splitting it up into 2 halves. We're going to start with our favorites.
Okay.
But before we do that, Max, 2 things. Whoa. Let's look back on 2016 and let's first, you and me were texting about this. How many games did you play last year to completion or just in general? Because I have a tally here of myself, just out of curiosity. Okay. New game, or
new. If we're going off,
I counted remasters as games that I beat still.
I
For instance,
don't even think I
BioShock
played
1 and
remaster.
2.
Yeah, I didn't even play remaster. I don't even think I played a remaster this year. I didn't. Which is kind of weird. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. I have written down 17 new games that I played.
Okay.
Out of those
All
seven,
of them? Oh, and out of those, I
out
gotcha.
of those 17, I did not beat 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. So I only beat 13 games in 2016. No. Add another one. Take another one off. I only beat 12. I did not do a lot. I did replay Paper Mario: Thousand Year Door. I replayed The Last of Us. So I think I played, probably safe to say, close to 20 games.
When I
But
looked
new
back on it,
games.
the first half of the year was pretty lacking, honestly. Like there was Firewatch and Far Cry Primal and a few games like that early in the
Dying
year.
Light, the following.
Yeah, another one, but even that was almost like DLC to an already existing game. Yeah, so there wasn't a whole lot for like the first 3-4 months of the year. The first game that really stood out to me as a game that was like, okay, this is a new AAA release was Quantum Break, and that came out in I want to say March or April. It was one of those. I want to say April, but I feel like that's wrong. That was kind of like the first one that I was like, oh, okay, this is like one of the first real big games of 2016. It was a slow year, and then after that, it seemed like the floodgates kind of opened up a little bit more, and we got stuff like Ratchet and Uncharted 4 eventually. And latter half of the year was really packed this year, I thought. According to my calculations, and me just scrolling through games that released last year,
Trophies and achievements.
Well, scrolling through just the list of games that came out last year on Wikipedia 2016 game releases, I played 44 games last year.
Holy cow.
New, whether they be re-releases of old games or not. Games that actually released last year, I played 44 games. I beat 26 of them. So,
yeah, out of the park in both. Quantum Break came out April 5th.
Okay, so it was April. So I beat 26, and then that's not even counting games that I played from the previous year, which I definitely spent the first 3 or 4 months of the year doing. I used the early half of this year to really clean up my backlog, or at least a decent amount of it. I played a bunch of stuff in the early half of the year that really I had been wanting to play for a long time. So, and I forget what those games are. I didn't count those or anything like that. But as far as games that released in 2016, I played, according to my tallies here, 44 of them. And that's not even everything.
That's nuts.
So, yeah, that's kind of interesting, I guess. I mean, I had a feeling I played more than you, mainly because I'll take the time to sit down with one game and knock it out in a day or something, which is something I do every now and then.
Like what they did with Doom and Infinite Warfare.
Mm-hmm.
Battlefield,
I did that as well.
You know, I forgot I did play Ocarina of Time this year.
You did play that. Yeah, that's a good one.
Not that that's new or anything, but I did play that.
Mm-hmm. There's a couple. Yeah, I'll mention a couple in a second. The other one, the other thing. So before we get into our actual formal list here, I asked you, Max, what are some games that you like legitimately hated this year? This is something we normally don't talk about too much, but what are some games that you tried that you like hated? Now, you don't even have to cough about it. You can just flat out say it.
No Man's Sky is notorious, I think, this year across the board for a lot of people.
I agree.
It's on my list as well. You and I both bought in to the hype like days before. And you know, we've told on the set show before, we've learned from our lessons. I certainly have. And you know, now I'm waiting and being a wise adult consumer, whatever.
I kept saying,
but No Man's Sky immediately comes to mind.
I kept saying before No Man's Sky came out that I did not think it would be a bad game. And in a lot of ways, I still stand by that. I don't think No Man's Sky is bad. I just think it's an incredibly niche game. Like, that is a game that I think serves a certain audience of which you and I are not a part of in any way. Because I have heard a lot of praise for the game from just random people that I talk to on the internet or in person or anything like that. It does have its fans, though they are very few and far between. But yeah, I think it would have been 10 times better if not for all of the crafting stuff. Like, it really sucks that you can't just hop in your spaceship from the go and fly to any star system that you want in the
Yeah,
galaxy.
it was the hype, and that falls on the consumer and the media surrounding it. It was just this ball of hype, this snowball of hype rolling down this mountain,
Yeah.
and just getting bigger and bigger. And when it hits the end, it shatter and it poofs into just tiny little snowflakes everywhere, that amount really to nothing and melt and disappear on the inside. So that is really the only game that comes to mind. I really truly did enjoy most of my games I played this year. One I found disappointing, not that I hated it. It is a good game. I can't deny that, and I had an okay time with it. It was Res Infinite.
Okay.
I hate it. Obviously, I had a good time with it, but I don't. The buzz
And we talked
for
about
this.
that one
We
probably
talked
like
about it for
three or
sure.
four episodes ago, maybe. Something like
But
that.
Res Infinite was one that just didn't click with me. And VR opened the gate for a lot of new games for people to play and try. Another one, Battlezone, really didn't jive with me, and that was a majority of it was the motion sickness, the
Yeah,
VR
see that. So
sickness
that
that
was my
caused.
thing too, because I wanted to put like Robinson the Journey down on here, and I was like, I didn't play but 20 minutes of that game because it immediately made me ill. So I don't want to say it
Think
was
about
like,
that now. Gamers have to think about games that actually make them sick.
and it sucks
And
because like
I'm
I
sure there are
did want to play
games.
that game. Like,
There are gamers out there that have health issues where games do make them sick, whether epilepsy or something like that. But now I think VR is making that a more widespread and common problem, like just sickness in games. And what's crazy about VR is it's person. There are games that I play that make me sick, like that Drive Club demo. My friend plays it totally fine. It's VR is so
yeah.
weird and unique, and just how the brain is tricked and processes everything. But Battlezone is another one I think I could say that I was disappointed in.
Sticking with VR, I really hated 100-foot robot golf. Like, that's definitely on my
Oh yeah,
short list of like most hated games this year. I just thought it tried way too hard. My favorite part of the game was just listening to the main theme music on the game's opening screen. That's not it's not a
it's
good
not a
thing
very
when
good.
that's my favorite part of the game. The controls were bad, the golfing was poor, the multiplayer was crummy, the storyline was trying so hard to be funny that it was unfunny because of that. Like, it just was not a solid game. Another one, this is really small. This was the first game I reviewed as soon as I started working at PlayStation Insider. I got a code for a game called Semblance. It's a walking simulator of sorts. The reason I even bring it up, it's not a very notable game, but there was like 3 or 4 different endings to it. The final true ending to the game was like near impossible to get, and the entire internet basically needed to come together for about 3 to 4 weeks until they finally found out how to crack it and unlock the real ending to the game. So when you're playing a game and it takes the internet collectively like that long to figure something out. And again, this wasn't like a marquee game that millions of people owned or anything like that. But when that many people can't figure out how to unlock the true ending to your game, something might be wrong. And I respect what I think they were trying to do, because that was totally purposeful on their part. Like, they wanted to generate conversation amongst people on Reddit or NeoGAF or whatever to try to figure out the ending to that game. But like that's a problem. I had to review that one. I was like, look, I reviewed this game. I don't even know how to give my final thoughts on it because I haven't seen the actual ending. So that's an issue.
That's a no-no.
Another one. This is not, again, like I called this our hated games. I didn't really hate this game. I didn't really hate mini games this year at all. Like there was no games I just like threw down. I was like, this is trash. But Telltale's Batman, like I'm just hearing so much praise for it, like across the industry. Like everybody is in love with this game, and I feel like you and I are some of the only people. You're one of the only people I know who is like pretty much like we're on the same wavelength with this. Like it is a good game, but man, it could have been like 50 times better. I feel like there's
It
so
has a lot of
many
issues, and what I think is so interesting is you and I have different reasons we don't like it.
Yeah.
And you come from a place as a huge consumer of Batman content, and I come from a place of in games. I really haven't read Batman in depth whatsoever. We both still notice issues and then have our own issues with the game. I mean, performance obviously is one thing you and I both totally are bummed about. Which you've told me the Walking Dead
runs great. I was really surprised.
Yeah, so which is great to hear. Batman, we both have our own narrative issues with the game and things we loved about the narrative, but
I
think
there was some holes.
I think
in
the
writing.
crux of it is it felt to me like a Spider-Man 3 problem. Way too many things going on. There was no focus. There was no one anchor.
There was no through line from episode 1 to episod 5. It was like a shotgun blast. There was just 50. Yeah, too much going on in that game, and I thought it hurt. I thought it hurt itself because of that. And we've talked at length about that probably for the past few months. I think.
That was we got free platinum out of it, so.
Yeah, it's worth it. One of the last games, Song of the Deep, which was Insomniac's like Metroidvania style game, controls just really irritated me with that game. And I've heard a lot of people. This is another game I've heard some like mixed responses on, whether either you really hate it or you really like it. And I fell into the camp that just like really did not like this game. I think my main problem with it was way too floaty, which sounds, I know you're saying, Logan, that's a stupid complaint. This is an underwater game. It should feel floaty. Yes, I understand that. But when it's so floaty to the point that I can't complete a puzzle that I have tried 10 to 15 times because the controls are so imprecise, then that's a problem with the game. And while I understand why it might be floaty, I don't want to sit here and redo this same puzzle while and this was like a common complaint with like something like The Last Guardian too. I know the solution. I know how to do this. It is the poor control.
Won't go do it.
Yeah, or in this case, the poor controls are hindering me from actually accomplishing what I'm trying to do.
Those are never fun.
Yeah, so that one's definitely. I thought it had a good vibe to it, and I thought the animations and the storytelling that was all cool, but just not. I did not dig that game. Okay, so one last thing before we finally get into our formal lists, Max. Omissions, games that we did not play this year that we either wanted to, and I think we maybe even talked about this on episode 73. So if we're crossing over here, sorry, but I felt like this was just important to mention. That way, when we do reveal our list, it's not, well, where's this game and where's this game? Well, I didn't play that game. I don't plan on playing that game, or hey, I'm playing that game right now and maybe my list will change. Because that was the big thing that I have said in retrospect after last year. For instance, Metal Gear Solid 5. When I finished that game, or when I was playing through that game last year, I think I had it slotted as like 4th on my list. If we were to go back now, it'd probably be number 1, if not number 2. Number 1 or number 2, something in there, because I actually finished
shifted toward the top.
Yeah. So we have I have like a lot of games that I haven't gotten to yet, and I don't know if you do too. Is there anything on your list?
I feel at least on the critical side of things, Doom for myself is a particularly big one that was actually quite a surprise to the industry as far as its quality goes when it came out. If you remember, this was before Bethesda formally announced its new review code policy, and Doom, no one got the game until the day it came out, which is notoriously a bad sign. But the single player panned out to be this incredible experience, while the multiplayer was so-so.
Multiplayer is not that great, yeah.
Based off what I've read. But Doom single player apparently was really great. I did play the free demo that they released at E3, and the game is stupid fast on console, which if you play, so I'm sure if you play this game on PC, and actually my new roommate has a top of the line PC, so maybe he might have Doom or can download the demo. Maybe I can see that game running at like peak specs because Doom took me back. I know Doom is notorious for being this very fast shooter, and you've told me about how to recover health. You have to be aggressive about it, and it sounds
Yeah.
very interesting. And maybe that's one that just like on a critical level I should have played.
I'm still gonna
Demo.
keep beating the drum. I'm gonna keep beating the drum for that one for a long time. Like I really think you should sit down and give that one a few quality hours. A bunch of people have said that they think it's like the best. I forget who it was. I really forget who it was that wrote it. It was somebody's giant bomb top 10 list. They called it the best secret Metroid game of all time. And it really does have a lot of Metroid elements to it when you start to think about it. There's a lot of backtracking through the levels. It is level based. There's a lot of backtracking through the levels and things like that. There's a lot of exploration and a lot of collectibles to find, a lot of weapon upgrades and things like that. It's a super unique game, dude, and like I think you should play it if you get the chance.
Yeah, that's probably the most notable one. Personally, I kind of wanted to try Battlefield 1 story, but never got around to it, even when I lived with a roommate that had a copy of it. So really, I clearly didn't care that much because I didn't pursue it.
It's hard. You can't
Witness,
play everything.
The
The Witness
Witness.
is a good one. Yeah, that's a good one.
I still like when I see it go on sale, I think about pulling the trigger because I love puzzle games so much. It was supposed to be this fantastic puzzle game,
That's
but
definitely one that'll hook you like early on, and then
I saw it on
you
sale
hit
for a pretty good
a
price on
wall.
Xbox, and then I thought, darn it, I want trophies instead for this game.
Yeah, because you can get the platinum if you're good at it. You can get the platinum pretty easily. Well, I don't want to say easily, but if you know
the
what you're doing,
platinum is
it's achievable for sure.
yeah. So ones that I missed out on that I wish I had gone back to.
My list is way longer because I play way more stuff, and maybe that needs to change. That's something I've been coming to grips with the past week or so. But currently, games
Trim the fat.
Still gonna try to play. Maybe not all of these, or actually, I do want to play all these, but we'll see if it ever happens or not. Watch Dogs 2, playing it right now. I really like it. Not far enough into it to give a definite conclusion one way or the other, but I am really liking it so far. Stardew Valley, again, that game had so much buzz last year. That's on a lot of people's overall game of the year lists. I feel like I have to review it, so I'm going to play it here soon. Final Fantasy 15 still haven't gotten into it yet.
Yeah, I've about 5 hours in and I just haven't had the time to go back to it yet, but Final Fantasy is definitely one.
Mafia 3 for myself, while it's not going to necessarily probably win a Game of the Year award from me, from everything I've heard consistently from people, it is still a game I want to just play, and I own it. So I'm gonna give that a shot at some point. I still want to play Primal, man. Far Cry Primal. That is a game I've been wanting to play for since it released, honestly. Will I ever? I don't know. If I ever see it in a $10 or $15 bin down the road, maybe, but we'll see. It's similar to how I've always wanted to play Sleeping Dogs, and then Sleeping Dogs was free on Games with Gold like a month ago, or maybe right now, actually. I don't know, but I have Sleeping Dogs
about a
now.
month ago.
Yeah, so I have Sleeping Dogs now, and I don't know if I'll ever get around to playing that, but I'd really like to. Dark Souls 3, finally got into those games this year. I have that. My brother beat it. He loves it. He says it's awesome. He keeps telling me to play it, so we'll see if I get to that down the road. Dishonored 2, haven't played it yet. I have it. I want to play it. Pokemon Sun, I've put about 8 hours into it. Need to finish up that. And then the last one, which I almost jumped on like a week ago, but I did not, was Overcooked. People who have played Overcooked this year cannot stop preaching how amazing it is. And
I want to. Abby loves cooking games like Diner Dash and other things like that. So she likes the idea of that game, and the fact it's co-op is pretty great for us. I've wanted to get it on Xbox a couple of times, But again, just haven't pulled that trigger yet.
Yeah, it was like $10 the other day on PSN, and I was like so close to getting it. And I actually probably should have. Actually, the reason I haven't is because I know it's primarily co-op and multiplayer based. I don't know who would play it with me, and that kind of sucks. But
Yeah, I don't think it has online multiplayer, which
I don't think so. Which it shouldn't probably. I wouldn't think.
I
That's
mean,
a good.
it's
Some games need to remain couch multiplayer exclusively, in my opinion.
I mean, like Mario Kart obviously is a couch co-op kind of game, but you should still be able to play Mario Kart online if you want to.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know. I feel like having the option there can't hurt.
That's not a bad thing. Maybe something they'll add in the sequel because it's got a lot of buzz surrounding it, and yeah, I've heard nothing but good things with it. So yeah, those are the ones I have not played. So now, finally, we've jumped through all. We've talked about the ones we didn't like or we hated, the ones we didn't play. Let's talk about the ones that fell just short. So now we're actually kind of into the real list now. So this is our top 5 favorites. What fell short for you, Max, on this list?
You mean honorable mentions?
Yes.
Okay. I didn't really write down honorable mentions per list, but
Oh, okay.
I had to. On my personal list, what didn't make the cut? One that pops into my head off my list is actually Firewatch. Didn't make my personal list.
I was really
didn't
interested to see if that one would make your list because I almost
you
were way hotter on the game retrospectively than
I was. Way hotter. Zing.
Fire.
Because it's a game about fire. It did not make my personal list. It got edged out by games, which didn't make my official list. So it's actually kind of flip-floppy. But Firewatch didn't make it, and I'll talk about Firewatch a little more later in the show. But I do genuinely love Firewatch. But when I go back and I think about 2016 and the games I had the most fun with, Firewatch doesn't it's not up there on the fun part of it. Abby and I played Firewatch together and we had a great time and we loved the story and the world and the art and everything about that game. Want to buy the vinyl. They just released the vinyl maybe a month ago.
Music is
I love everything about Firewatch, but favorite fun when I think about it doesn't pop up on my list. Unfortunately, got edged up by a couple other games. So there's a game on my phone called Run Gun Jump Gun. I've talked about it on the show before. It's this very fast-paced game, kind of in the vein of Super Meat Boy or Hotline Miami, where you're dying a lot, but you don't even really notice because it's so quick and rapid, and you're just trying to float through these stages and shoot other things without dying.
I remember you talking about this a few weeks ago.
Joyride mashed with Hotline Miami and Super Meat Boy. Really, really dope game that I loved quite a bit. Severed would be another one. Severed was that first-person Metroidvania from Drinkbox Studios. Great game. Had a lot of fun with it. It is a fun platinum. It is much darker than the previous game, Guacamelee, but it is a gem, and it's great to give the Vita some love. So those would be kind of some honorable mentions off my favorites list, like games I remember playing this year.
So I don't want to give too many of mine away because, as I mentioned in episode 73, I think I mentioned it. May not have mentioned it on the air, maybe off the air to you. I guested on a podcast over Christmas break that we'll be posting, and it is also an episode of top 10 favorite games that I guested on. So I give my top 10 favorite games compared to the top 5 favorites that we're doing on this show. So if you want to hear my expanded thoughts on the back half of what my top 10 would be, you can listen to that show and I'll tweet that out whenever that goes live. I think it should be next week.
It goes live?
I think it's next week. I want to say next week because he did recordings with 10 to 15 different people. And so I think he's posting, I think he's starting to stagger them out, if not posting all of them at once next week at some point. So gotcha. I'll post about that though when it happens, and you can hear my more detailed thoughts about some of the other games that I may mention here. But off the top of my head, games that I enjoyed that did not make the list but were close. Actually, first let me say this up front: my favorite game of the year overall, completely, Bloodborne. But that was a 2015 release, so that cannot count for this list. That was my favorite game I played all year by a healthy margin, actually, too. That really opened me up to that franchise and series as a whole, and just that gameplay. That was my favorite game.
It's
that
like
I played
Dark
this year.
Souls.
So yeah,
Did you know this game has Dark Souls elements?
yeah.
Isn't it now?
Um,
A little pinch of Dark Souls, a little dash of GTA. Look at you. You got yourself a winner.
you got yourself a very nice game.
Little 8-bit retro feel.
So that was my
And
favorite
then,
game that came out this year.
that you
Sticking
played.
that I did
Came out
play.
this year.
Sticking with like a weird, like, this can't really count, but like I almost wanted it to count. Let It Die. And it's not because I actually really like the game. I think the game's a lot of fun, but to me, that game's always gonna like represent like the first time I felt like work I had done paid off. And so while I probably won't ever play a whole lot of that game or put many hours into it, if you didn't know, I took Gung Ho. They flew me out to play like an early build of the game in Los Angeles. So I'm not saying this just because of that or anything either, but that game's always going to mean to me like that was like the first moment I was like, oh wow, like this is actually becoming a thing. Like I've actually put in work for this, and now things are starting to happen that are beneficial to potentially a career that I could have. So I'm always going to look on that fondly as being like the first moment where things felt real for me in this industry. So those are like my two weird bugaboos that were like potential favorites, but not really favorites because I didn't play one of them really, and one of them released in a different year. Actual games that I did really like though that can't come out that I didn't make into my top 5. Arkham VR. I really wanted to put that in my top 5, but I did not. It's really close.
There were VR games. I was like,
I almost restructured my list to put that one in it because I really wanted VR to like have a presence on my top 5 on this show, but just couldn't. I liked too many of the other games more, but I really do like Arkham VR. It's probably my favorite VR game. Sticking with that, Rez is also amazing. Did not make my top 5, but I think those are the two best VR games currently. My two favorites. Gears of War 4, ton of fun, but I haven't played Horde or multiplayer really, so I really couldn't do much else. I did like the campaign.
Isn't Horde like the big thing?
Horde's like the big thing, but I just don't have anybody to play with, and without that, it's not as enticing for me to go back to regularly.
Right.
And then I won't give everything away just because you may want to keep guessing what my favorites might be. Well, I'll say one more that won't be in my top 5. Lego Star Wars The Force Awakens deserves a shout out because I really thought that was like the best Lego game that had come out in quite some time. So yeah,
I would agree with that.
Another one that I really liked.
I was supposed to play that game co-op, but we never got around to it.
But I will not mention the others that I had jotted down just because maybe you'll hear about them on another podcast sometime. Wink, wink. There we go.
Nudge.
Max, let's get into it finally. For real. We've been talking for a while.
I was going to say, we've only been doing this for 40 minutes already.
I am sorry. Top 5 favorites.
I love it when you text me and you're like, show should only take about an hour long. You always say that. You're like, it'll only be an hour. And then we're 3 hours deep and you're like, we still got 2 more hours of content. Let's go, baby. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, I know. Okay, so do you want to do this where each of us reads our entire list, like one by one by one by one by one, or do you want to go back and forth like we typically do? Or we both do our 5 and then both do our 4 and then both do our 3?
I think for the sake of time, we each read our list in full. And I would also suggest that if there's crossover, for example, if you have a game on your personal and your official list, you save your in-depth discussion, I think, for the official part of it. If I put
that could work, I guess.
Hitman on both, if I put Hitman on both lists, and in depth, in the second half of the show.
So do you want to go back and forth? Like I'll say my number 5 is blank, and then you say, okay.
No. Read the whole list. You read 5 through 1, and then I read 5 through 1.
You can start then. Just give a little blurb about each of them, I guess, off at first, and then so not just like my 5 is this, my 4 is this. Drag it out a little.
Yeah, my personal favorite games of 2016 are as follows. Number 5 is Ratchet and Clank.
Ooh.
This game was a wonderful blast to the past, kind of, in that mascot platformer, that mascot character game. And Ratchet and Clank, I never really played the first one. I always only played the second or third one at friend's house as a kid. And to see it beautifully reimagined on PS4 and these updated visuals for $40 brand new, and to have a really fun platinum to pursue, despite me missing that one trophy. Really was a great game, and I just remember having a lot of fun with it, sitting there playing it each night and just kind of doing a whole world and all the missions there and collecting all the guns and the items and the currency to just build up and be the best in the game. It really is a lot of fun, and I hope this means we get a new Ratchet game.
Yes, hopefully, please.
I think they realize what makes those games so great, and I feel like Ratchet is a game that has had a lot of experiments and a lot of, not spin-offs, but just a lot of sequels. And I think really I've heard that the last great Ratchet and Clank game was a Crack in
Time was awesome.
And then into the Nexus kind of like was scratching that surface again, like scratching that itch. But
I didn't play that one, but it was like shorter from what I heard. And by the time you started getting your nails sunk into it, it was over.
Your teeth,
yeah.
So I think Insomniac kind of has a grip on what makes a great Ratchet and Clank game at this point. I think they've heard the people, and hopefully the numbers did really well. I know the movie wasn't that great, but the game was a ton of fun. So I do hope we see more Ratchet and Clank. My number 4 was Super Hypercube, PlayStation VR. It's my favorite. It's my favorite VR game. I love, as we all know, I love puzzle games, and I think this is the first VR game I ever played, and it proved to me that VR wasn't just a gimmick. It is a new way to play games, and Super Hypercube literally gives you a new perspective on this certain type of puzzle game, and it's a ton of fun. I love Super Hypercube. The visuals, the gameplay, it's great. I've actually had a really strong itch to play it again lately, and I might dip into it tomorrow. But Super Hypercube is number 4 on my list. Number 3 on my personal favorite list is Inside. Inside from Playdead, originally launched on Xbox, is where I played it. What a fantastic game. I will be talking about Inside a little more later, but Inside is meticulously crafted, and it's captivating, and it's a marvelous game. And I'll just save the rest for a little later. My number 2, Forza Horizon 3.
I was wondering if this one would pop up.
Oh, baby, does it pop up? Because this game, I think I might be the pickiest person when it comes to driving games for myself. I'm not into the Sims like the mainline series Forza or Gran Turismo or Project Cars simulator games. Not into them. They're too real. But arcade games like Need for Speed, and even very particular Need for Speeds, particularly Carbon or Most Wanted, are my favorite in that series. Really just shine in the arcadey feel and the customization in the open worlds. They're great. Forza Horizon 3 has captured that for me again. Simply stunning, a killer soundtrack, great cars, awesome customization, actually down to the T. It can be a sim game. You can even adjust the settings where it is simulation controls. It's just, Forza Horizon 3 is one of the best open world games of 2016, and it's about cars. Love it.
Like
And playing it on my Xbox with my Elite controller is also very fun, because I can drive manual with a clutch, so I'm using the paddles as like a clutch and a shifter, and it is a ton of fun to play this game and all the different modes and exploration. It's great. I love it.
I still haven't gotten used to using paddles, but
dude,
I don't even try to use them actually.
No, when you play Halo, when you make that custom SWAT layout and you're playing Halo with your paddles, oh, doctor,
it's got to be
paddles. I love the paddles.
I'd have to practice for a while.
You do. You have to practice. You have to get used to it. And then surprise, my number 1 game.
Oh man,
what could it possibly be?
Oh my gosh, what is it?
little game called Super Mario Run. No, Uncharted 4, A Thief's End. I will talk about this game later, and I've talked
We've
about it
talked about it enough.
on this podcast. But Uncharted 4, A Thief's End is game of 2016, top to bottom.
So, quick question for you before we get into my list. For those who've been with the show for a while now, we did earlier in the year. We did probably my favorite stretch of shows out of this entire year was when we did our top 10 favorite games of all time, which you can go back and listen to. It was in the late 40s, early 50s. When we got to our final top 10 of the year list, Inside was on your list.
Of all time.
Inside was on your list.
Inside was.
Does that mean Forza Horizon is now on your list as well?
Like a personal favorite of all time?
Yeah. Because you had Inside slotted at like number 8 as your like 7 or 8 favorite of all time. And so I saw that it beat it here. Just out of curiosity, and those lists don't always have to match up. I do the same thing a lot, where I'll be like, "This was my favorite this year," but like, I would put this ahead of this I kind of think in the grand scheme of things.
For this particular list, I think about the games I had the most fun with, and honestly, I came up with this list today. Maybe if I really sat down and combed through all the games I played, Inside might even be bumped lower, but Forza is a game I had pure fun with, and I didn't play a ton of it, and I want to go back to it. My friend has it on PC. There was a time where each night we'd cross play and just drive around this Australia and play. But like favorite best games of all time out of my 22 years of existence, Forza doesn't. Maybe cracks the lower numbers on the list, but it's not bumping off Inside.
Okay, I was just curious if you want to go.
Just 2016 favorite fun games. Forza is absolutely.
And if you want to go back and listen to our top 10 favorites of all time, I think it's episode 51 or 2. It's one of those.
I will pull it up.
I'm almost positive it's 51. Actually,
51. All right.
So there's that. Let's see if I'm right, Logan.
While I look that up, why don't you tell the people your top 5 personal favorite games?
All right. We'll get into it. In this list, well, never mind. I won't say that.
It was episode 48.
Dang it. I thought it was...
One was Make Sonic Great Again.
What was 50? 50 was...
Screw video games. Let's talk about
Trump. Yeah, that was the political one.
49 was Pokemon Go is changing the world.
Okay. 48. Dang it, I was close. So yeah, you can go listen to that stretch of like, I think it was like 6 episodes that we did, 42 to 48. So those are all pretty good.
It was a good chunk of episodes.
48's a fun listen to because we edited the crap out of that one too. Or at least I put a bunch of music beds underneath that one. So that's a fun one to listen to.
We could do that this time around with the new app, but we could do it.
Try it out. We could try it out. It'd be fun to do sometime.
We could do it live.
So my top 5 favorites. Number 5. I had a real hankering to play earlier today because I was real mad at work. I started listening to the soundtrack. It made me more mad.
Oh.
I was listening to the Doom soundtrack. Doom's my number 5. I was never a Doom person either. That's the thing with this game is to so many people that series meant something to them. I had never played any of the Doom games. I rented this from Redbox on a whim. I don't own the game or anything like that, even currently. I played through it in a day.
Giving them your money.
And it was, I actually do want to buy it. It's one of my favorite experiences this year because, as you mentioned with Forza, Forza to you was just fun. Doom to me was just a lot of fun. The story is so self-aware that it's stupid, that it is just the most over-the-top self-aware game I have played in quite some time. It knows exactly what it's doing, and its goal is to be just crazy, all-out, stupid fun, and that's exactly what it is. I like how it is as a shooter because it makes you think a little bit differently and things like that. I don't know. It doesn't follow a lot of conventions of normal shooters and things like that. I've talked about Doom a lot on this show. Maybe I'll talk about it again a little bit later too. Really like Doom though. Doom's a ton of fun, and if you haven't played it, then you should. My number 4. This one probably won't be as much of a surprise to you, Max, but to normal people who don't know me and my gaming taste, this is a unique one. My number 4 is MLB The Show 16. This was like my comfort food game of this year. Anytime I didn't know what to play, or anytime I had too many things to play and I decided, screw it, I'm not going to play any of them. MLB The Show was always the one I went to like immediately. I played so much of this game this year, and mainly a lot of it online against other folks. The Diamond Dynasty mode is a ton of fun. I really enjoyed putting together my team and trying to craft my team, because you can buy like specific players and things like that. You obviously don't know how it works because you probably don't play sports games. But essentially in Diamond Dynasty, which is the mode that I spend, I'd say 80% of my time playing with this game, there's like, you can create a team out of all of the players who are currently in the major leagues, or even like older players and things like that too. There's like certain players. Babe Ruth's not in the game, but
then it's not a baseball game.
It's not a real baseball game. It's Pablo Sanchez. He's not in it either. He's not in it either.
Well, what kind of, these are dumb baseball games?
You can go to the market, and like the best of the best players, they'll cost like tens of thousands of studs that you can then use real money to purchase studs and then buy like real cards, or you can open card packs or things like that. It's almost, I don't want to say it's not free to play. It's almost like there is that model to pay to win, sort of, if you want to, but you still have to know how to hit the ball. It's kind of like steroids. Like Barry Bonds may have taken a lot of steroids, but he still has to know how to hit a baseball at the end of the day. Same with this. Like you could get all the best players in the game, but you still have to know how to play it. I put in a lot of time in this game, and I really got a satisfying Diamond Dynasty team that I like. Plus, the Road to the Show stuff's a ton of fun. The weekly challenges are great. The season mode's fun. And best of all, my Cubs were finally relevant and good in this game. So that was enjoyable to play with them for once and actually be able to win, because normally I play with them and it is an uphill battle. So, MLB The Show, I actually just deleted it off my hard drive, and that kind of sucks, even though you want to be out in March. But that was the game consistently. That was my comfort food game of this year. That was the game that I went to nonstop. So my number 3 is Uncharted 4. Really liked Uncharted 4. I've been much more negative on it on this show, I think, mainly because Max sings its praises so much that I feel like I have to try to counterbalance it. At the end of the day, though, it really is a stellar game. Like,
the best. I
really like how it wrapped up the story. I don't feel the need to ever really go back into this world again, even though I guess we will in a couple months with the DLC. I don't need to see these characters again, though, really. I feel content with how it wrapped everything up. I thought it was a good final adventure. I like that there was no supernatural elements to the game, really. I thought that was kind of a little bit refreshing. While I do have my issues with it overall.
Technically, Uncharted 3 did not have any supernatural elements either.
I mean, when you get poisoned with the dart, and then,
I mean, yes, you fight the djinn, but they're not real. It's all in your head.
Yeah, and
so Amy copped out on that one. But no, I totally get what you're saying.
Well, there wasn't even hints of that kind of stuff either.
Well, no, they did make a reference to, like, what if there's pirate ghosts?
Yeah, so it was a little bit self-aware.
No pirate ghosts. This is a man's game. This ain't no baby game. These are no ghosts. And then another part of me was like, please be pirate ghosts.
They did a good job. I thought the biggest struggle the game would have is introducing Sam, and I thought they did that pretty well. While he was not, he's by no means like my favorite character or anything like that.
Oh no,
he worked out way better than I expected because they did not have a lot of room to work with.
Past,
yeah. So they didn't have a lot to work with Sam, but I thought they did really well because same thing with like Rogue One or whatever. It's hard to make people care about characters that you're only going to have a set amount of time with. From the outset, we knew this was the end of the Uncharted series currently.
It's called a thief's end, for Pete's sake.
So we knew that this was going to be the final game, at least for quite some time. in this series. And knowing that ahead of time, we knew that this would be the only time we would end up really seeing Sam. So knowing that ahead of time and still seeing how his character turned out, I was satisfied with it, and that was a good thing for me. There's a lot of good in this game. It's the most beautiful console game I've ever played in my entire life. I don't know. We'll talk about it again later because you'll bring it up, and I may bring it up again too.
Ooh, those teases.
It's really good though. I like it. Number 2, Max. This may come as it's gonna be a little bit surprising. Number 2 is Pokemon Go. Believe it or not.
Interesting. No, knowing you, no, not surprising. To listener, maybe.
Well,
fun with.
Well, see, that's the thing. Pokemon Go sucks. Like, this is a horrible game. Like, this game, it's not.
It's out on the Apple Watch now. I haven't tried it yet.
It is.
I literally haven't played this game since like May or June.
It is like a solid 5 or 6 out of 10. The game itself is not very good. There were so many troubles with the servers when it finally launched. You couldn't ever sign in. It's clunky. It's slow. You find way too many Caterpies and Pidgeys. But this game, when it came out, did something I have never seen in my entire life. And it united the world behind a game. This was more... This game led to so many social interactions for me the first 4 to 6 weeks that it was out, and walking around Indianapolis and seeing literally thousands, not just the small groups, literally every person that you are running into is doing the exact same thing, whether they are 60 or 6 or 22 in my case. Everybody that I saw walking around Indianapolis was literally playing Pokemon Go at one point. And that was insane to me. I could not believe that so many people were playing this game. And with that in mind, it was so cool because you did have a commonality between, that's the right word, right? Commonality? Yes. Yeah,
commonality.
That sounds weird. There was something you could approach everybody and talk to everybody. You had an in with everybody, not like, oh, hey, now I can pick up girls because I have something to talk to them with or anything like that. Nothing like that. But it's like, I'm a little bit introverted, so it's hard for me to talk to people sometimes, which is kind of weird because I'm loud and obnoxious a lot of times. And I don't know. Depends on the day, I guess.
Yeah.
But this was awesome because it made you feel like you had a connection with everybody around you because you were all doing the same thing. And I had never felt that before. In addition, I had so many great times playing this game with my friends in my small little town. We would get together at night and go out and go play the game at 11 or 12 at night. Freak out when the Snorlax would come in range, and we'd sprint around our entire city looking for it. It was a game as well, again, with my friends, I thought strengthened our relationship over the summer as well. Like, not that we were on bad terms or anything like that, or I hang out with my friends regularly, but this game made us want to hang out more because of that. And still living at home and having all my friends come home for the summer, like, I've known these people my entire life, so I've grown up with them. We've been playing Pokemon together since we were kids. And now
in your diapers.
Yeah. And now seeing how Pokemon's changed, and it's also like, it's kind of like it went full circle, and all of a sudden we were back to Pokemon as college kids now. And we're playing Pokemon is once again bringing us together to hang out and socialize like it used to on the playground. Like, oh, I was playing Leaf Green last night and I caught I
found a Charizard over at the playground.
Yeah, exactly. So it was like, the things that brought us together in the first place and the interests that we shared then kind of brought us back together again over the summer. And we all had so much fun hanging out and playing this game, even though, again, the game itself sucks, but it was such a catalyst for socializing with your friends, your family, even strangers around you. And I have never seen anything like it.
I've never seen that either.
And
every night I'd leave work at 1 o'clock at night, and my coworkers and I would wander the parking lot of our shopping center catching Pokemon, and then see people riding around playing it. It's nuts.
It was freaking insane.
When the game launch? May?
July.
Okay. It's number 4 top grossing app in the App Store.
All time? Or
Right now, currently, every app out there. It's being beat by Netflix, which is kind of surprising. Um, uh, Clash Royale and Candy Crush. But it's number 4 right now in the App Store. The game that came out 6-7 months ago and is a game is number 4 top grossing
and
app.
and like I don't play it anymore. It really was kind of like a product of that time. Like I don't think I played it much after August, September-ish.
Mhm.
I think a lot of us fell off around then.
I'll hop back in from you too.
For those like 6 weeks, that was one of the most unique things I had ever seen in video games ever, like in my entire life, let alone this past year. It really was something to behold, and I will really never forget that. And the last thing too, I couldn't believe overnight, literally overnight, this became a thing. Like it came out, I want to say around like 8 or 9 o'clock, whatever day it came out. It was kind of later in the evening. Seriously, the next day, everybody was doing it. It was, and it was weird to me because obviously you and I know about these things. We talk about them once a week on this show, or like we're dialed into the industry. There is a community that is dialed into keeping up with games news. Everyone was playing this game within 3 days of it releasing, whether it's gamers like us or our parents. Everyone had it. And I think that speaks so much to the fact that we all have cell phones in our pockets 24/7 now. That's part of it. So when you do get a product like this, it is so accessible to so many people because we all have the same devices. But it was just, I think that's what blew my mind so much initially too, was that this was a thing that everyone was doing, and not just the gamers, not just you and I, or the people who are hardcore into this stuff, not just the Pokemon fans. This was everybody. My dad had this app. He was routinely coming in and telling me all this crate. Oh, I just caught a Pidgeotto outside. You should run out in the neighborhood and go grab it. Stuff like that. It's like, what are my parents even saying right now? What is happening? So yeah, I wanted to talk about that one. And I talked about that one at length up front. Like that one's not on my top game of the year list because, again, I think the game sucks. So I felt like I couldn't put it on my top 5 game of the year list because of that. But again, it was insane this year. I've never seen anything like it.
And your number 1 favorite game?
Number 1, I'm curious what you think it is.
Or number 1 favorite game of the year?
Yeah. See, this is a weird year. It really is.
Yeah, for you, I'm trying to think about you. I don't think it's Inside. It's not Overwatch. Last year. Could be Titanfall. I don't know. I mean, you really like Titanfall, but I don't know if it's your favorite game.
I'll give it to you. My number 1, Inside. It is Inside.
Okay. It is Inside. Okay.
I was so captivated by this game, and I really didn't expect it, even though I had heard nothing but absolute praise from everybody who'd played it. Like
I think you also didn't there's no reason not to expect greatness, especially you were a huge fan of Limbo.
I liked Limbo, but it wasn't like incredible or anything like that.
Okay,
like I think Limbo's a really, really good game, but it did not capture me the way that Inside did by any means.
That's fair.
I was just so in awe of this game, and I was trying to. It's only 3 to 4 hours long, if that. But as I played this game, I could not stop trying to piece together in my head what was happening. And it just constantly, like, what is going on in this world? Am I running from something? Are people chasing me?
People were chasing me.
What is happening in this? And then the weird, crazy ending. And it is the game out of this whole year that stuck with me the most and kept me asking questions constantly, even after I had finished playing it.
Will you play it again?
So that's the thing. I talked about this a little bit on that other podcast that I guessed it on. Is this almost falls into Last of Us territory for me, where my first playthrough was so special that I want to play it again, but I'm almost hesitant to in some ways.
I will play it again.
I went back and I got all of the collectibles or whatever on that, and
so
that even
already
felt.
done it. You've already done it twice.
I've already done. I haven't played. I didn't play through the whole game. I just did the chapter select and got it that
There's
way.
chapter select.
Yeah, you can. It's pretty specific too. Like you can get it pretty close to where the collectibles are. But I went back and I got all the collectibles, and after even doing that, I was like, this feels a little dirty. Like, this feels weird. It feels weird just bouncing around in this game. I do want to play it again, kind of. But again, just it kept me on my toes and it kept me asking questions, and it was so beautiful yet creepy at the same time. And I really dug the tone. I dug the art style. And I also love that it tells you nothing. There is no this game gives you nothing to go off of. Everything from the store, everything in this game's story is completely what you put together on your own, which I am such a huge fan of. When we talk about movies sometimes, like I feel like I'm steadily becoming like a film snob in some ways, just because like that's part of what I study at school. So many times I'll pick up like on bad writing in a game or a movie where I'm like, they're telling too much here. They're giving too much of it away. They're being too upfront with the narrative. They need to show more and tell less. And that's what all of Inside was. They didn't tell you a single thing, and you have to put together the entire plot for yourself. And that is so rare. And it's also just cool that they leave that up to the interpretation of the player. And while I'm sure Playdead has the actual story, or they actually know what was happening, they will never tell you what it is, because they never did with Limbo, and they will never do the same with this. And then you get the secret ending in there, which is just screws with your head even more. It makes you ask even more questions rather than answering any questions. It just makes you ask more. This game just really stuck with me throughout the year and kept me thinking weeks, months after I had played it, wondering what had really happened in this world.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was cool. I really liked it. It's obviously
we'll talk about Inside probably a little more later too.
We will. But
take a break and then dive into our official list.
So yeah, if we're going to split this show up, take a normal break like we typically do.
Only an hour and 10 minutes into the show.
10 minutes into the show. But when we come back, we're going to have our top 5 actual game of the year list, with the ones we thought objectively were the best of this year. But right now we're going to take a break. Max is going to slide in some music here. I told him to slide in his favorite song from gaming in 2016. So whatever song he puts here is what Max thinks is the best song from games within the last year. So enjoy this tune. We'll be back in a moment.
I am ready to go in when you are. My nose. I'm breathing through my nose too much. Gotta breathe through your mouth.
Me or you?
Me. Honey, sit like about right here. Not like this.
You've got it timestamped or whatever. You good?
I do. Whenever you are, buddy.
Okay. All right, I'm good. I was about to count down. Guess we don't need to do that.
Do that. I got a timestamp. Go.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. So, in the second half of this episode, this is our top 5 games of the year. Last segment, we did our favorites of the year. This is now the list that we think are the best of the year. And we're going to dive a little bit deeper into these, talk about these maybe a little bit more than normal, more than we did on our last list, and hash out why we think they deserve their respective spots on this list. So, Max, how do you want to do this? Do you want to back and forth this time, or you want to do a similar? I think maybe we should go back and forth on this one.
We can do that.
Let's do that. instead of breaking it down one by one. We'll build up the anticipation until we get to number one, even though I think we've already said what each of our number one is.
Yeah,
On
I
previous
would.
episodes.
I would be
Unless
surprised if
yours
yours is
changed.
different.
I can start this one since you started the last one. So my number 5, just like on my favorites list, was Doom. I almost slotted Pokemon Go in here, but
I am surprised it's not higher.
really,
Be number 3 for you.
I thought about I thought about not even putting it on at all, but
Wow. Okay.
I really do think that gameplay wise, this is one of the best games of the year. Soundtrack wise, one of the best soundtracks of the year. Sound wise, the killing and the gore, like it feels, this game feels good. It just all comes together perfectly, really. Like the gameplay, the soundtrack, and then the story just being so self-aware of how dumb it is. It's really one of the most finely crafted shooters I think I've played in quite some time. And playing through Battlefield and Titanfall and Call of Duty within the past few weeks, I forget how much I like shooters sometimes, which I mean, really shouldn't be a shock. Like BioShock's one of my favorite games of all time. I'm a big first-person shooter fan. Like I really do like a good, well-crafted first-person shooter. And I think that Doom's campaign is one of the best that we have seen in quite some time, honestly. The multiplayer, while I didn't probably play more than 5 to 10 matches, is just fine. But I definitely think it deserves its spot on this list purely based on the campaign alone. Because it really is doing some special things, and it is making a franchise that was dormant for so long relevant once again. Because Doom, when you look at the history of video games, it is one of the most important franchises easily. Like Super Mario Brothers, Doom, like those are like 2 of the big ones in this industry. And so to see it relevant once again in 2016 was huge. I don't know. See, this is the thing now. Do they continue to make a bunch of sequels and things like that? We'll see.
I mean, Wolfenstein's up next, so
Wolfenstein is up next, so that'll be fun. I'm sure. I actually really like the Wolfenstein games as well. But I think Doom it did everything so well. Like there's not one specific thing I can point to in the game. Campaign wise, again, the multiplayer is kind of stale. They went for like an arena based shooter type. But there's not one thing I can point to in the campaign and say that's bad. Maybe the story, but honestly, when you play the game, you know that they're like purposefully being stupid with the story, but that works, and it's weird that does work, and it's so rare that
no, I think that makes sense.
Rare that you can say that in a game, like
aware and embraces it. Sunset Overdrive, for example,
yes,
extremely self-aware, goofy, and its style of humor and storytelling, polarizing, but I particularly love Sunset Overdrive, and it's so self-aware and it breaks the fourth wall so much. And maybe Doom doesn't break the fourth wall, but
that's the thing with Doom is that it is so self-aware and it is so aware of what it is, but its tone is so serious at the same time, and somehow that works. In a really weird way, that works. And it's rare that you would see a game where that combination of being so serious and being so aloof and like almost making fun of yourself does come together and create a great game. But in this case, it worked with Doom. So I think it deserves a ton of credit for that. It really put a ton of work into this game, and I think it shows. So Doom is my number 5.
Cool. My number 5 is Firewatch. I briefly kind of talked about it a little bit, how it didn't make the list. It was cut off of my personal favorites, but I think Firewatch, I think its narrative and its world, particularly its art style, is so unique and stands out that it's, I think it's a pillar of this year. And I've wanted to go back because they did update it with that free audio commentary update and like a free roam mode and just some different things. Its soundtrack, I think, is beautiful. I think the relationship between 2 people, where I can point and say that is an example of a relationship between 2 people that feels very real and very genuine. And it's because I think part of that team is from Telltale in that season 1 of Walking Dead, and they've come and they made their own story, and they really, I mean, the relationship between Henry and Delilah is the crux of that game. That relationship is so strong that it's the most interesting and engaging part of that game, and I love it dearly for that. It is, I think it is a really special game, and as a first attempt for Camposanto, I cannot wait to see what they're working on for round 2.
I definitely think it deserves a ton of credit, especially in dialogue. Like, dialogue is so difficult to write and come across as realistic, like two people actually having a conversation. That is really
just think of the complexities in the decision making. She says this. Just think of all the different times they had to record
different lines,
different conversations.
Yeah. I mean, it really is it's a hard thing to nail, and I really think that they do it with Henry and Delilah. I like how the game opens a lot. That really kind of sets the stage and sets the story up well, even though it is just text. A little bit different. Like, I didn't expect that when I started the game up at first. That it is that relationship that is the through line, and it is that relationship that is the strongest point. My only complaint is that I didn't feel like there was then payoffs later on because of that. The story itself gets a little tangled up, I think, towards the end, and
I actually disagree with that, but you and I have disagreed about that.
I don't know. Like, at first I didn't think it was bad, but then I started thinking more about it, and what you said is so true. Like, this game is so centered on that relationship, and then it kind of turns to where your focus becomes this other person specifically, and to me it was like, well, I want to keep exploring what the heck's happening between me and her right now. Like, I want to keep doing that. And you kind of, after you resolve everything with the story, like, you're hoping that, oh, maybe I'll see her now, or maybe something like that'll happen. But the resolution between Henry and Delilah, I felt, was, I don't want to say bad, or it wasn't what I wanted. And I'll put a total personal spin on that, because I don't think it was objectively good or bad one way or the other.
A prime example I can think of is when The Last of Us came out back in 2013. People were very torn on the ending and how they couldn't choose the outcome. And a lot of people came to the defense of Naughty Dog, saying they told the story they wanted to tell. Live with it. It's not like you can go into the movies and watch a movie and choose your own ending.
Yeah.
Similar with books, unless you are doing the choose your own adventure.
And I respect the heck out of that. I really do.
Right. And I know you do, but
a lot of people
that's like a really good game example. Is the ending was what they wanted. Mass Effect 3 is also a prime example, whether you agree with the ending in that game or not.
Yeah, I agree. Firewatch definitely deserves a lot of praise for its script. I really think that's one of the better. Despite where I may differ in opinion from you, like in terms of enjoyment from it, I think it is like one of the most well-crafted stories this year, and give them a ton of credit for that. My number 4 is The Witness. The Witness is
the
a game
you played. Not a lot of.
I played a lot of it, actually. I played the game I played like 15 to 20 hours, I want to say.
Really?
Yeah, I put a lot into it. I don't know if
you quit it early on because it made your head hurt.
I put a lot into it. Those first 2 weeks it came out. It just eventually became too much, to the point where I was like, I'm so tired playing this game. It literally, it physically drained me. It made me exhausted. It's a game that makes you realize you need 8 hours of sleep a night. I think this game deserves so much credit because, for starters, let's look at who made it. Jonathan Blow, one guy. And now, again, there's a team of people who help him on this game in different aspects. But for the most part, this game is made solely by him. And all of the puzzles, all of the world itself, how the game, the ins and outs of the game, the most important things in the game are all done by him. And I don't understand how that guy's brain works to where he creates the puzzles in this game and how it makes sense to him, because a lot of people in the industry, I think most notably Alana Pierce, has consistently said, like, this is a language game, and that is such a good way to describe what is happening in this game. It starts you off with such simple puzzles, similar to like when you're a child and you are learning the alphabet and you're learning how things work, and you slowly begin progressing. You're like, okay, I have a good grasp on this. You complete maybe 10, 20, 30 challenges, and you're like, oh, awesome, I have a really good feeling about this. Give me more. And then before you know it, it's like, boom, write a paragraph. And you're like, huh? What's happening here? write me a novel.
Jane roll downhill.
Yeah. And so you got to start piecing it all together, and with all of the different, and it's all done by symbols, which is nuts. Like it is all the same from the first puzzle, which is just a maze, simple, get to the end, but do it right. Every other puzzle in the game is the exact same. But I think it is one of the most well-crafted games this year from a design standpoint. Mm-hmm. What it is trying to do as a puzzle game is probably a 10 out of 10. Like, there is not a better puzzle game I think I have really ever seen from a design standpoint.
What's so interesting is puzzle games also come in so many different flavors. Like Tetris is a puzzle game, but Tetris and The Witness are two totally different types of puzzles.
Yeah.
Interesting, but I do see what you're saying. I haven't touched The Witness. I don't know anything except what it looks like visually. And that it's pretty darn complex. People have notebooks and are scrawling paper like mad crazy people. But
the feeling when you do,
like I said earlier, it's one that I wish I played last year.
And I think you'll get around to it at some point. Like, that's consistently like one that you continue talking about from time to time.
Puzzle games.
I think when it goes on sale for $15-$20 down the road, I could see you pouncing on it at some point. And I'd be curious to hear what you think if you ever do play it. But yeah, it's so unique, but just so well crafted. Like, really, everything in that world is there for a reason. Everything in that world is so perfect. This game was in development for such a long time, and that shows in the final product. While it's not a game for everybody, and while it was not on my personal five favorite of the year, I think from a pure game design standpoint, like, this game cannot be overlooked. So The Witness is my number 4, and I almost put it at number 3. I was really fighting between 3 and 4. So my number 3 is coming up.
My number 4 is Hitman.
Interesting.
Hitman.
Did you ever watch that stream the other night that I sent you, out of curiosity?
My to-do list of videos, which just
I have a bunch of those.
I have a backlog of videos.
I do too.
But Hitman, I think, was a game that had a lot going against it. This announcement that it was going to be episodic, that the original, like, the story is horribly convoluted and pointless. But when it really comes down to brass tacks, it's the gameplay. And this episodic structure is actually one of its strengths, and it built and layered in complexities. First episode in Paris is like just a tease of what was to come. And I only played 3 of the 5 episodes, and I've heard 4 particularly is super hard and satisfying. And then 5 is also pretty darn good. But this game, it takes one area and turns it into this assassin sandbox. And Hitman is a puzzle game. If you've noticed a trend in my gaming habit, it is a figure out how to eliminate this person or eliminate this threat. Go. And
Hitman?
There are so many different ways to do it, from disguises, from just sneaking in. There are achievements for sneaking in without using a disguise, like using your suit and being totally silent. And those are some of the most satisfying. And then you have ones where you dress up like a plague doctor and kill someone. Game is just so multifaceted in that way of how you can come to the end. It's not like a Telltale game where Greg Miller often describes Telltale games, they're a coloring book and you just color them in, but the final picture is still the same. Technically, I guess Hitman is. In the end, the goal is to have A and B eliminated, and how you get there is different. But the the way you get there, the outline of this picture can be so different from stealth, from full on assault, from disguises, from traditional. It is so destroy things remotely. You can get in there directly. It is a really deep and complex game. And that's just in one episode. 5, and the replay value in this game is through the roof. It has these different challenges that you can do in the game to get better and unlock more weapons and different ways to assault. It's just, you're peeling back the layers, man, and it is a great game to dig into. And I actually really want to go back and play 4 and 5, doing the guide for it for IGN, but that project got canceled about after episode 3. And what a game, man. What a game. It really is something special. And I think it really was a surprise to a lot of people in a positive way. And I'm excited to see what they do with a second season, as it were, because in theory, Hitman can just be this.
That's what I was. So that's what I was going to ask you. This is a game that my interest in has been growing recently. I think it does look like a lot of fun, and it really does look well crafted. Is there a through line from episode 1 to episode 5? Is there like
a story,
steadily like building your way up? Like, yeah,
there's a story. Yeah, is it good? No,
I didn't figure. I didn't. That's not anything that I think needs to happen in that game. I really think they did strike
story.
gold.
It's pretty darn convoluted, and especially during that episodic structure where it was piecing together month by month.
Yeah,
not really working for me.
Yeah. Sorry, I think my grandma or somebody was trying to call me.
Hi, Grandma.
Yeah, the Hitman games have gained. I think what Square's done with that is they found a way to make Hitman work, because I think so many people were kind of tired of that series in a way. There hadn't been anything.
The series had its ups and downs, kind of like Splinter Cell. Like
it had become stagnant for sure.
Yeah,
like something new needed to happen with it, and it was originally revealed at the PS4 at E3 in 2015, and everybody just kind of shrugged their shoulders, if I remember correctly, and was like, okay, whatever, don't really care. First episode came out in December of last year, I want to say, and then just as the year went on, that game constantly started getting more and more buzz as the episodes started to come out, and I really give a lot of that credit to, I think, streaming really helped that game out. Again, I watched that hour and a half, 2-hour Let's Play the Giant Bomb did with it that they released on Christmas, and I thought it was like one of the funniest things I'd seen in a really long time with Let's Plays. So it even captivated me in a lot of ways in that sense, to where I was interested in the game and my interest began growing. So I'm assuming that's how a lot of people found it, is they just started seeing people playing it and like, okay, this actually looks really fun. Maybe I should be interested in this game. And that's one of the cool things about how the industry is kind of taken a turn, is that it's less now about.
That's why Bethesda is doing their review structure.
Yes, it is, because it's less about having this grand like marketing blowout for a game and getting it plastered all over the place, which is still a good way to get your game out there. But now it is so many times we see these niche games becoming just huge juggernauts. Again, Stardew Valley. I had no idea what Stardew Valley was, but my goodness, if I didn't hear a lot about it over the last 12 months as it started to gain hype, and more and more people started talking about it. Because I think Stardew Valley came out in like January of last year, if I'm correct.
It may have. I have no idea.
By the end of the year, it seemed like everybody was talking about it. So that's a good one. That's a solid one, though. I can see. I've heard a lot of good things about it.
So. Number 3?
So my number 3, which was almost my number 4. It was really close between this and The Witness, but my number 3 is Uncharted 4. I think that this game is great. I think alongside Firewatch, it has one of the best narratives of the year. I
The
again,
best.
I mentioned it before. Yeah, I mean, yeah, probably the best. Besides maybe for me Inside, but that's a pick and choose kind of thing. Written narrative though, easily the best. We've come to enjoy these characters so much, and I think they accomplished a lot, kind of with what I mentioned earlier, making Sam a character that you cared about despite only knowing him for such a short amount of time was, I really think, a testament to how good their writing is. There was a good payoff for those at the end who had played all of the previous entries in the series. Technically, it was one of the most beautiful games it is the most beautiful game I've ever seen on a console in my life. That still holds true. Nothing has taken that away. It's Naughty Dog. It's Naughty Dog being Naughty Dog. They are one of the best, if not the best developer in this industry. I think they deserve so much credit. They are the best campaign and story developers in this industry. Nobody does a campaign like Naughty Dog does, and that still holds true this year. I think also of note, the multiplayer is pretty fun in the game.
Yeah, and they just updated it with a horde mode.
Yeah, they did, which was totally free. Survival mode's now in Uncharted 4, so that's really cool. They deserve some credit for that. Because I know that's something neither you or I will really talk about or praise too much, but I think it is worth mentioning that the Uncharted 4 multiplayer is solid. Like, it's not bad by any means at all. It's an enjoyable, good time. I mean, we've talked about this game so much this year. We really have. And again, I've been
And
so
we're going to
negative.
talk about it more.
We will. There's so many things in this game that I don't want to say so many. There's a couple things in this game that I didn't care for personally, which is, I think, totally fine. That certain things may not have clicked with me specifically, but again, when we are being objective, I cannot deny that this is one of the most finely and well-crafted games of 2016 by a mile. Like, it's really not even close. So yeah, while I may have had a few gripes with it personally, things I wish they would have changed, I really do think that Uncharted 4 is one of the best games of last year and is definitely one of the best exclusives on PS4. So yeah.
Word. My number 3, which worked out this way, was Forza Horizon 3.
So that was on your list too. Okay.
Yeah. Kind of like I said earlier, I won't elaborate too much further. It's one of the best open world games this year, and it's about cars. It's wonderful to explore. It is vibrant and alive. It is this perfect blend. It's a perfect summer day, and you're driving a convertible, and the top is down, and the wind is in your hair, and the music is blasting, and you're just having fun. And this whole crossplay with your friends across PC and Xbox, these drivatars, it really is a wonderful, wonderful game, and it's so much fun, and it's just so meticulous. It is so well crafted for I mean, it's like crafted like a luxury car, but as a video game. They really do the passion that Playground has for cars is so evident, and the power of it, and the way they work with Turn 10 and Microsoft is just it's really very cool to see this blend, this fusion of 3 different studios coming together to make one game every 2 years. It's a blast, and they just put out this like Blizzard DLC that I want to check out. We're driving in the snow. Like, come on, we're driving in the snow. There's rain.
It
Like,
snows
this
in
game,
Australia?
yeah, somehow like it's this goofy fun
That's
game.
probably the
I mean,
stupidest thing we've ever asked, and a bunch of Australians just face palmed. They're like, "Yeah, of course it does, you idiot."
no, this is like Blizzard, like mountaintop blizzard stuff. Like, it doesn't snow like that in Australia. I can tell you that much.
Are you
Australia's
sure?
I feel
It's a real big
99
country, real big continent.
I
Whatever you
feel
want to call it.
99% confident in saying that Australia does not snow like what I've seen of this DLC, if it snows at all. It is a fantastic game, and I highly recommend it. for anyone really. It's a blast.
You've preached it a lot this year, both on your favorite list and on this list. So take your word for it. Yeah, I mean, the game got stellar review scores as well.
Can I
9.5s, 9.75s?
Can I guess what your number 2 is?
I think it's probably the same for both of us.
I think it is.
Is it Inside?
Yep. You want to just talk about it together
so
again?
Insides Insides are number 2.
You've shared quite a bit how you felt about the game.
Yeah,
your personal list.
Yeah, I shared a lot of my personal feelings with it, like the questions it made me ask and things like that. But from a design standpoint, I don't really think there is a better side scroller than Inside. I really don't. Okay.
No, I think that can be argued.
Obviously, side scrollers. I know you'll say Shovel Knight or something like that. Obviously, this is
Mario.
This is a different side scroller, so it's hard to compare it to. It's hard to compare it to the Mario's and the Shovel Knights. Yeah, exactly.
It's not an action platform; it's a puzzle platformer.
Exactly, and so because of what it is trying to do, because it is a puzzle platformer, I don't know if there is a better puzzle platformer than
it is. It is so meticulously crafted. It is painstakingly crafted. You can tell. It's the best way I think I could describe it is when you go. Recently, I went to the Ronaldo Estate in North Carolina. It's this big old house, but they've also turned it into like an art museum, and they have an art exhibit. And you're walking around, you're looking at art. And if you've ever been to an art exhibit, even like Ferris Bueller, when you get up close to these paintings, or whether it's with watercolor or oil or pastels or whatever the medium they decide to use, you can, especially these very large ones, you can tell the painstaking detail in the strokes and how intentional each one is. There's no stroke, unless I guess it's abstract, that's out of place in those pieces of art. And these art exhibits and very famous art pieces, everything is planned and serves a purpose to evoke emotion and to draw your attention and pull you into the painting. Inside does that on a game level. There's nothing that boy does that was not intended. There is no sound that comes across that speaker that was not meant for you to hear. There's no detail in the environment. There's no aspect to the puzzle that was not planned and intended to elicit some sort of response out of you and to poke and prod your mind, to provoke thought. It is fine-tuned. It's abstract. It is a game people will talk about for years and years to come, and it is special in that way. And I when I played through it, that was evident to me the entire time.
So the best example, I think, with what you're talking about, as far as like how meticulous it is and how down to the second some of the things are in this game. Like when the dogs chase you, for instance, you don't just get away easily. It is timed perfectly for when you get through that section. The dog is at your heels when you're jumping off the cliff or jumping onto the next thing.
There's no
it is so perfect that it plays out. I want to say the same way for everybody, because that's how they have it
timing
out. Yeah, that's how they have it timed down to the second. And that seems like a small thing. That seems like a small
that response.
Yeah, exactly. Because that is seen when you play the game.
I mean, for Pete's sake, the audio designer and composer pumped sounds through an actual human skull and recorded them that way, just to get a certain vibe and feel for it. The game, just the leaps and bounds that they went through to make this game. It took them 5 years.
5 years. Yeah. 5 years. I don't know if I have shared it on the show, but the creative director on the game, I'm pretty sure is the creative director. I passed by him at the Game Awards and somebody came up and they said, I loved Inside. It was a really good game. I'm looking forward to what you guys do next. And he just kind of chuckled and he said, well, it's going to be a really long time. Yeah. Like this game, despite only being 2, 3, 4 hours long, it is so meticulously done, that level of quality and pinpoint accuracy and timing is so hard to do, but they make sure that they nail it when they do it. Another thing I really didn't mention before, but the moments in this game to me, just like really, there's so many like memorable moments in this game to me. You literally die and drown at one point in this game, and
Why would you
that
go
to
off
me,
and say that? That's a special moment.
was so just like I didn't know what was happening. It makes you feel a certain way constantly as you play through this game, and I like how they give you certain access to certain new elements of the game, whether it be the sub or something like that, and now you have to figure out how to use it or something like that. It is so, yeah, it's just so well crafted from a gameplay standpoint. And the other thing, in addition to that, I really like at the end after the event happens, we'll just say that, and you begin walking
Yes.
around after that takes place, and seeing all of the different characters in that environment and their reactions to what is happening and what is happening around them is so unique. And I don't know if you've looked any of it up online to see like some of the specific reactions that certain characters will have, like if you wait a couple moments or if you get to a certain point at a certain time or things like that. If you haven't seen that, you should look it up because it's insane, like the amount of detail they put into that. Like none of the characters just end up standing there. If you wait a certain amount of time, something's going to happen. They're going to do something in that environment to react to what you are doing presently. It just, the attention to the detail on this game is kind of mind-boggling. It really is. And Playdead deserves so much freaking credit for it. They really do. I think this and The Witness are really just like, and I know I had like Uncharted above The Witness, but Inside and The Witness to me are just like, as far as games and what those games are trying to accomplish and what they do from a game design and gameplay standpoint, they are near perfection. I really can't point to a flaw in either of them as far as a design standpoint.
Mm-hmm. It's Inside is a fantastic game. It really is something special, and it's no surprise why it's number 2 on both our lists. So,
yep.
You wanna
number 1? Here we go.
Yeah, you should be number 1 because technically the order would have been there. You're number 2, then my number 2.
Yep,
we just share the same thing. So
yeah,
number 1.
I think everybody's
I know
going
what
to
it
know both
is.
of our number 1s too. I have been beating the drum for a while and saying that number 1, the game of the year for 2016, it is Overwatch. And I think you're insane to not have it on your list at all. Regardless of what you think about the game, I don't care if you like the game, if you hate the game, whatever. This was the game of the year for 2016. This is the game that defined last year. This is the game that got everybody talking. This is the game that everybody is still talking about. Like, this is the big game for the industry last year. It really is. And I'm trying to think and come about this in a way that we haven't before, because you and I have both talked about our number 1s. I've talked about Overwatch a little bit more within the past few weeks, especially after we kind of discussed the fallout when it won at the Game Awards. I think what Blizzard's done by making a game like this relevant on consoles is huge, and taking certain elements from MOBAs and putting them into a multiplayer shooter is so rare, and then clicking with a community almost immediately is harder than everybody gives them credit for. But the game itself too, like, is just like, it's so well balanced. Like, I don't think there's it's, despite there being close to 20 characters, if not more than 20 characters in this game, it never really feels lopsided in any one direction for anybody. And I think it's so accessible as well. That's one of the great things about it, is that anybody can really play this game, and anybody can get good at this game if they either choose a specific character they want to play as, or The one thing too, and I know we've differentiated with this, is even when I lose or suck in this game, I'm still having so much fun because of how quirky and
I'm not.
enjoyable it is. And maybe that's just because that's how you are with multiplayer or things like that. But
I can't stand it when my teammates are being idiots.
so I and see, I'm usually with you there too, because when I play Battlefield Online, if my teammates are idiots, I get frustrated. But
It's
with
called
this,
an
it's almost
objective
like,
for a reason.
but with
Do
this,
your
it's almost
job.
like laughable. Like there's even like jokes.
Winning,
There's jokes
losing
about
is not laughable. Not when my KD and my win-loss ratio is on the line. No, sir.
But this game is less about that to me and is more about. There is a huge competitive scene for it. Don't get me wrong, but
Oh
this
yeah,
game is more about just having fun, which in a multiplayer environment is so rare to me.
I want my games to give me anxiety and stress, like The Last of Us multiplayer, where you're literally gasping for breath as you're trying to pull out a victory when you're last man standing.
So
No fun allowed, only seriousness.
yeah.
I say this in jest.
I don't know. I'm trying to think of more things to say about it, but I really have beat the drum for this game
Yeah.
over and over the past couple weeks.
Overwatch is fun. It's a good game.
But
People,
I just think it's the game that defined last year. And when you look back on 2016, I think it'll be, oh yeah, that's the year Overwatch came out. Because to me, this is the next League of Legends. This is the next StarCraft. There already is a huge.
I think you're absolutely right in that. I think when you say game that defined 2016, I think that's pretty darn accurate. There's a fervent community behind this game that's extremely passionate, whether that's in the right or in the wrong. And, people frothing at the mouth over this game. I'm sure the next time a character is teased, people will not shut up about it for 6 months until it's finally dropped, like a certain character.
So it is that, but it's also the fact that I think from a game design standpoint, it is accomplishing what it's trying to accomplish. It is on par with Inside and The Witness. I really do think that this game is so well designed and, again, so well balanced and accessible.
I think it's well balanced. I wouldn't go as far as perfectly designed.
I mean, I think
this game has problems.
What would those be?
Well,
I don't want to hear about the free-to-play loot boxes either. Gameplay.
No, that is a problem. That's not what I was going to bring up, though. That is 100% a problem, though. They've been trying to fix it recently, but like the overtime has been in this state of, it's funky, man. And play of the game has notoriously been a hot topic of like, how should this type of mechanic work? And granted, play of the game doesn't change.
Yeah, that's such a small,
I know, but
afterthought.
There are things that I don't know. Play the game, something I think about while I'm playing the game.
No, that's true.
And now there's what's her name, the hacker chick that just came out, Sombra. Her new invisibility thing, it brings up an interesting point. I was actually talking to someone about this at work today. Overwatch leans heavily on the mechanics and design of Team Fortress 2, which is totally fine because it adapts different things to it. It's like the new generation's Team Fortress 2. But someone was talking to me at work today about how Team Fortress 2 has, what is it? Is it the detective or what is he called?
The spy.
They have a spy. And so it's like a different class. And the spy can like disguise himself and stuff. And I said, do you ever think something like a spy would ever come in? And we talked about Sombra and her invisibility, which is not the same mechanic, but kind of the same idea. And her ability to be invisible now changes over time and how things like that work. But you're right. And the game is balanced and there's always a counter for most everyone else. Bastion. I hate Bastion with a fiery passion. The game is great. Don't get me wrong. I think it has more problems. I would not put it on par in design as something like Inside or The Witness. I don't think it's perfect in what it sets out to do, but it does it very well.
I think if it's not as well designed as I claim it is, then I don't think there's that fervent community around it, despite how well likable the characters are or things like that.
I think there is because Blizzard, and I feel like I can say this because I'm one of the biggest fanboys I know. You slap Naughty Dog on the box, I'll play it. It could be a platformer about a banana, and I would think it's the best game in the world. Blizzard, you slap Blizzard on the box, people are gonna love it, and that is a big part. And Overwatch was a completely different game at one point. I forget the code name for it, but Overwatch was totally different at one point, and Overwatch are very interesting the way the community reacts to them. It's a little obsessive and scary the way some of these characters are represented and talked about and portrayed, and it's interesting. Watch is going to go into its future if
Uh-oh, we lost Max, I think. Or maybe he's coming back.
you're right there.
We're
good.
Oh, we're good.
I can hear you.
So the last thing I heard you say is how Overwatch is going into the future. And while I don't like to, and while I am trying to keep it somewhat confined to this year, like I think this is going to be a game that is still just as
well. What I was saying was, I'm interested to see what they do, because will it turn into a platform like League or Dota? And if it does, how do they handle the console community? Because they've made this relevant on consoles, but it's a $60 game on consoles. On PC, it's $40. And if it turns into a platform, then you're either turning into a subscription model or free to play.
I don't think that's necessarily true. Dota and League aren't subscriptions.
They're not. They're free to play. I'm saying if it's a platform, then you have to deal with that. And then is there an Overwatch 2? And if there is an Overwatch 2, what happens to Overwatch 1? These are a bunch of questions that they haven't figured out yet. And if it was on PC, these questions would already be answered. And I mean, this isn't to knock its game of the year abilities. This is all future speculation.
Like 3 years ahead, though.
No, I think this is a year ahead. Overwatch needs to keep.
Well, you're saying it's a $60 game. It's been pretty consistently like 40 now. It's been out like 7-8 months.
I know
now. So the price will drop, like,
there's still questions on consoles that they haven't answered.
I don't think there's any questions. They are consistently. All you need to know is that they are consistently putting the same DLC that comes to PC. They are consistently supporting with on console as well. They have said they have got. I mean, it's not even they've said. They've shown that their support for the PC version or the console version is going to be the same support that they give to the PC version. Obviously, they can maybe change and tweak things a little bit more on PC just because certain things are easier, but every patch that comes to PC is also going to go to console. Every character that comes to PC is also going to go to console. Every map that comes
I'm not
also going to go to console. Like, console's not getting left in the dirt by any means here.
Going to turn into a platform.
See, you're thinking about it as a platform. It's just a game. It's just a game. Like, right? It's just a game that you can buy. It's a, like, what do you want me to, like, this is where we get into like a weird area. Like, what do you want it to be though? Like,
I think it takes more from the PC game community and design. And I think it needs to turn into, I think Overwatch needs to be a free-to-play game, especially
why
with the way.
But that doesn't make any sense, though. Like, it's not doing poorly on consoles. People have clearly shown you've made a good product. And this is like a consistent thing that Colin says. Like, if you make a good product, people will pay you money for it. And even let's look at something like Drawn to Death. Drawn to Death was going down the free-to-play route, and then they said, you know what? No, we're going to double down and make people.
I'm not saying it needs to go free-to-play because it's not making money or needs to make more money. I'm saying the mechanics that they are taking from are free-to-play games, and the model that they are pursuing play subscription base, which is what Blizzard is known for. Blizzard lives and breathes off subscriptions. And I think the inclusion of these, the loot boxes is a huge part of that. And the game is not certain as far as the type of way we will play this game. And consoles are in there, and that muddies the water a little bit. And it's going to be interesting to see how Blizzard handles it.
You will be fine. Like, it's as simple as that. And heck, 5 years down the road, they might just make it free for everybody. And you think that would completely change the game from the top down? No, like Team Fortress did that. Like Team Fortress was originally 20, $30, and eventually they're just like, it's free. There's really not a whole lot of like purchasing elements to Team Fortress. It just went free. It was as simple as that. There is, don't get me wrong, but it's not like insane. As somebody who poured hundreds of hours into Team Fortress, there's opportunities to buy things in that game. But again, it's not like, it's not
doesn't
insane.
change the way
you can still play the game. That is my thing. That is my thing. And
there's nothing you can spend your money on in Overwatch that changes the way you play the game.
Exactly. And so that's why I think you get too caught up with the questions about the free to play models and the things they're taking from. And the other thing that I think is troublesome with like our frame of mind as well is they've taken elements from free to play models somewhat, yes. But why do, just because they've done that, why do we then need to expect that the game is going to be free? That's a dangerous mindset.
I don't expect it to be free. I just think they need to pick which type of platform they want to go with. Paid $60 for the game.
They've picked it up front. Like if it was going to be, that part of this story is over. That released, it was a game.
It's a $60 game.
Like that part of the tale is over. Like they're not in drawn to death territory where they're trying to figure out how they want to launch the game. The game is out. The game's a massive success. It is the biggest success of this year in the industry. So that part of the story is over. What going on from here? I like you said, you think that the future of the game's a little bit in question. I think this game is going to be just as relevant 3-4 years from now as it is today, if not more so. I mean, and while we may not be hearing as much about it, it will be a consistent presence in this industry, similar to League or Dota. Like it will be,
or WoW. Like WoW's been around forever, and that's another Blizzard game.
Counter-Strike Go, something like that, where it has a massive community, and we've all just kind of gotten numb to it. Like, yeah, okay, there's an Overwatch group that consistently plays that game, and we'll just be used to that. And while it may make changes on the fly, people like you and I won't be playing it anymore because we play the new releases and the things like that. So these things that you are questioning and wondering about, if anything, they will just benefit people who haven't played the game yet, which again, the game's a huge success. There's millions and millions of people who've already purchased this game at $60 or $40, wherever you're playing it. So if they were to make it free down the road and rely solely on the loot boxes or whatever, as far as revenue streams, like it's not an issue. And they're not going to ever ask for subscriptions for this game either. Like that is just not a thing. That is, name a multiplayer game that asks for subscriptions. Like
WoW.
WoW is an MMO. Diablo's not a subscription based thing. I can go buy Diablo right now for PS3 or PS4.
Yeah, but that you're using PS Plus there, which is the subscription part of it.
You don't need to play that game online with friends or anything like that.
Well, I know that part. It doesn't. I thought Diablo had a subscription.
Not that I am aware of. No.
Okay. Well, WoW for sure.
WoW's kind of irrelevant though. Like it is again. It has its community. It has its community though. That's the thing, and it'll be the same with Overwatch, where it has its steady community. The game is not going anywhere. Like I've not seen people latch on to anything like this in a long time.
I've taken us off the track of talking about Game of the Year, and now we're just talking about the future of Overwatch. And I apologize for doing that.
No, it's fine. Like I think it's a fine conversation though, because you voice these concerns, and I just come back at you with like different responses.
To kind of bring it back to Game of the Year, the reason Overwatch isn't on my list in any capacity is when I think of Game of the Year, I think of look for in the game are the gameplay, the story, performance, the visuals, the music, everything that goes into a game. Single multiplayer, if a game has that. And Overwatch lacks in a couple of those departments for me, particularly story, which if this game was pure multiplayer only, like Mario Kart has no story. It has single player campaign of like driving through tracks, but it is a It is a purely multiplayer. There's no story or fluff. Overwatch has a story that is outside of the game and is removed from the game. It is in these YouTube shorts that they make. And then it's also a part of this community of fans, and the fan people just pour out every day over this game. And some of it is acknowledged as canon and some of it is not, but none of that is in the game. The game, literally every time you boot it up, opens with a cutscene saying, join, we need Overwatch again. None of that is in the game outside of that cutscene. And that is me. I also think that the fact that the loot boxes, like the content of the loot boxes is entirely luck generated is just...
That's your biggest holdup.
Time and stupid. Like, as a game design mechanic.
Again, that's a personal thing, though. Like, I think that is a total personal thing. If people want to spend their money on it, people can spend their money.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about spending the money part. I'm talking about the random chance. I could play that game for thousands of hours and still not get the costume I want.
Yeah, but I mean, again, that does not affect the game.
Not right.
Why keep coming back to the game? What if you get the costume?
That's not a part of the gameplay. I'm not saying that's a part of the gameplay. I'm talking about it's an element in the game, and that affects Game of the Year type status for me.
I think you're so hung up on that, though. I really do. Like that, you bring that up often.
I don't think I am.
You bring it up a lot, though. You do, and
because that is my biggest issue with the game.
Exactly, and that's why I say that you're hung up on that.
I think I'm caught up on it. I think I'm pretty.
But when that's your biggest issue on the game, I think that is such a minor thing that I've heard literally no one else
for a game and not have the possibility of getting all the content.
You have the possibility. That's the thing. The possibility is there. It's totally there.
Yeah, but it will never happen because they feed.
Not at the rate you're playing the game. No, anyway. It'll never happen. You gotta go play the game more. That's the point.
I'm just saying they're. Yeah, it's a break, man. But whatever. Not even your crappy story doesn't exist. Boo! Overwatch, worst game ever.
I think I think it also is strange that you are saying the story. Like,
no, but that's what I said. When I look at a game, if this game didn't acknowledge a story whatsoever, Blizzard, Team Fortress 2, to my knowledge, it doesn't have a story. Dota doesn't have a story.
There's a lot of Team Fortress shorts, though, where it's
okay. If they're put out by Valve, then they acknowledge that there's a story, and that's fine. And I've never played Team Fortress 2. Blizzard acknowledges there's a story. It's just completely removed from the game. They acknowledge it in one cutscene, and then it never. So to me, that's like the end of Metal Gear Solid 5 apparently was removed from the game. I don't know how it ends, but it just wasn't in there. Like the end is weird or something was missing.
They just didn't finish it. There wasn't enough time.
It's like Blizzard was like, we're going to do this story thing, and then they didn't do it. And that's a huge issue for me as far as Game of the Year discussion goes. When I'm playing the game, Joe Schmo, it doesn't matter.
That's fine. I mean, to be totally honest, you had Hitman on your list. And
yeah, but they finished their story. They acknowledged it. They didn't just one episode and then not do it. They did the story.
So would you rather have something that's like Overwatch, where it's like, there's a backstory, I guess, sort of. We have established lore. If you are curious to learn that, you can watch these cool shorts we make. Or would you rather have it like Hitman, where it's like the through line story sucks, but it's there?
Yeah,
because that's basically what you're saying. That's basically what you're saying. Like
that's like Final Fantasy 15. Final Fantasy 15 to fully understand the story, you have to watch the YouTube anime, the Blu-ray, play the mobile game, and then read this book.
That's just Japanese people for you.
Well, I know, but so that's part of the story. So if
I don't think that's the thing with Overwatch. I wouldn't call it a story by any means. It's more just like
there's a story that Gorilla talks to you at the beginning about all of this stuff.
And that's all you need to know. Here. Like there is not anything else really to establish outside of that opening cutscene.
People are talking about it all the time.
And people talk about Final Fantasy Kingsglaive too, but it's not like
I know, and it's a part of the story.
super important.
It's I shouldn't pay full price for a game that says, "Hey, we have a story," and then doesn't acknowledge
It
it.
doesn't say, "Hey, we have a story." It brings you into that world
A
with
game
that.
it tells you there's a story.
It brings you into that opening cutscene and it tells you, and then that's it. That's all you need to know. And like, you're hung up on something that doesn't exist. Like,
No, it
and if
exists
you
because they
do want,
acknowledge it.
that's fine. We can move on to your story
It's
where you get
not
to gush
game of the
about a
year
story.
material for me because it's this one element that they say is a part of the game is not fully realized.
It's fine.
It's like if Guitar Hero said, "Hey, we are gonna play music on a guitar," and then gave you you only played guitar for half a song.
I think you're so off base. I really do. I think you're so off base
I
with
think the
it.
game is
It's
fun.
not a story. It is like just lore. It is backstory. And you're
It's a part
looking
of the
for
game.
like you're looking for narrative. That's a good word for it. You're looking for through line narrative. Why am I defending this payload? Why am I guiding this payload through this map? You're looking for something
These
like that, and that
characters.
does not exist. And they never say that that is a thing. What they do establish is that there are heroes and there are villains, and they fight. That is the story of Overwatch. That is the overarching narrative. It is no different than Blue Team
No,
versus Red Team in Team Fortress, which is at the heart of Team Fortress as well. We're the
no,
Blue
they're
Team. Well, we're
talking
the Red
about
Team.
the Overwatch needs to come back together, and there's these bad guys, and then there's all these shorts and these connections between these characters. These characters literally make references to each other in events that happened. Anna, as far as Mother, there is a narrative here, and they put it out on the internet in their comics and in their shorts, and it's moved from you. It's like Final Fantasy put out the patch
I'm
that
gonna
added new
be totally
cutscenes.
honest with it. So if it was there, I don't think you'd give a crud either way.
I probably wouldn't, but it would be there and it would be a
So
part of the
that's the
game.
thing. That's the thing. That's why I don't understand why it is like this sticking point for you. Because I know if it was
Because when I'm
there,
looking
you
at
would
Game
not
of the
care either
Year,
way.
I'm looking at Game of the Year and I look at the full package they present to me, and if it's up to snuff, and they've presented this as an element, and it's a weaker element in the game.
It'd be like if you, okay, here's what it's like. It'd be like if I asked my mom to make me a pizza and she made me a pizza and she said, "Here, I made you a pizza." And I said, "Well, where's the anchovy?" And she'd be like, "What? I didn't want to put anchovies on this pizza." That's what it's like.
No, that would be
For
like if
me.
your mom said, "Hey, I'm going to make you an anchovy pizza," and then you didn't get any anchovies, or you
This
got
game
one
was not
anchovy.
story centered. This game is not story centered. This
I
game
didn't
is
say it
all multiplayer.
was there. It's a part of it.
I don't even think it's part of it. I really don't.
It
And
is.
and
Wasn't
again,
there, it wouldn't
you
be a
are
part of it.
the only person I know with any of these concerns I've heard whatsoever.
Because the game, it's not a full package.
It's fine.
It's a
think
good game.
I
It's
think
fun. It has great gameplay. I'm not denying any of that. It's these other elements in the game that are lacking, and remove it from the pedestal of Game of the Year for me.
that's fine. We're just gonna keep running in circles because I think you're wanting a game that is not the one that Blizzard made, even though the one that they made
Not
was
like
the biggest. No,
Blizzard.
it's not that. I'm
Overwatch
not
is
even
a
dying.
good game.
I'm
I'm
not.
not
No, and I'm
denying it.
not saying you think it's a bad game. I'm just saying you're asking for something that Blizzard never set out to make in the first place, and was
I
like
don't care what
never
Blizzard
on
set
their
out to make. It's what they
exactly.
presented.
Exactly though. But that's like me.
Served
But
me.
and that's why I say this is equivalent to me saying with Uncharted 4, well, I thought their set pieces sucked. I thought there wasn't enough.
Offended you
I
with the
thought there
set
wasn't enough.
pieces.
I thought there wasn't enough action portions to the game. I
Yeah.
thought there was too much climbing. Like
Okay.
I have these concerns, but I know they're personal, and that's why being objective, I'm like,
But also, Uncharted 4 is not your Game of the Year.
yeah, because I think Overwatch and Inside
Because the
both did things
package
better.
wasn't everything you wanted or wasn't complete.
No, because I didn't think it raised the bar. I think The Last of Us is still the bar that Naughty Dog has set. I didn't think Uncharted 4 surpassed that. I also didn't think Uncharted 4 as a complete package surpassed Inside or Overwatch. Complete package too, you have to look at the package that is presented there.
Oh,
It is
and
again back to the pizza thing. Is
that's
this a good
exactly
pizza?
what I'm saying. They presented this element of a story, and it's not explored at all
by default,
outside
you
of
are.
the game.
But by default, you're considering like a story as part of an element of a game package. I don't think Overwatch was
Yeah,
never
it is.
intended to be a story thing. It's not. There is a backstory, yes, but there is not a through line narrative in that game because
Like Titanfall 1.
It is a multiplayer
People were
shooter.
furious there was no campaign in it. And there were elements of a story in it, and that is one of the things that they corrected in Titanfall 2. I'm just telling you,
and
when
again,
I look
this
at
is
Game
another.
of the Year, I've explained it. When I look at Game
No,
of the Year,
that's
these are
fine,
the
and we
things I'm
don't need
looking
to.
for.
We don't need to continue. We don't need to beat it into the ground for the fifth time either. We really don't, because we have, and I feel like we're gonna get stale at this point. So we should just move on to your game, which is Uncharted 4. So go
Uncharted
ahead
4,
and gush
Thief's
about
End.
that.
I've talked about it at length. I do think this does have everything that I look for in a Game of the Year: the story, the visuals, the set piece, the design, fun, top to bottom. I do personally think it is better than The Last of Us.
Still, even after you finish Last of Us again, or maybe you didn't.
I beat Last of Us again for the fourth time. For the fourth time. I do think Uncharted 4 is a better game. Top to bottom in that regard. But I just think it's everything I'm looking for in a Game of the Year. It has it all. I think they did it so well, and I'm excited to see what they do again.
That's it. That's it.
That's it. I've talked about it at length.
We have over and over this year.
I think it's a perfect video game. I think those moments with Nathan and the people that I've spent the past, me personally, now 4 years playing their games, but as an industry, I think it's been closer to 6 or 7 years with these characters, and that have been crafted by Naughty Dog and Amy Hennig and Bruce and Neil and everyone there has really come to a close. And the game wasn't afraid of quiet moments, which is interesting in a huge $1 million game. I think that lent to its strengths. And then also, it's just a ton of fun. I love that rope, man.
I need to replay it. I really do. Like, there's a bunch of games I want to replay.
You should platinum it. Join the platinum.
I want to do that. There's a bunch of games I want to replay again from last year. Inside, Uncharted 4, Doom. I would like to play again. Like, in theory, I'd like to finish The Witness, but I don't think I ever will.
Yeah, you'd have to relearn the language at this point.
Yeah, that's the hard part about that. Is it is game like The Witcher or something like that, which I've also been trying to.
The farther and farther I get away from The Witcher, the farther and farther that platinum gets from me.
Like, The Witcher is something I'd like to go back and finish as well, but that's more just like me trying to figure out how the controls work and stuff again like that, and how quest logs work. Simple things like that. The Witness is like, I've forgotten everything, which means I'm screwed. So the Witness is it's near impossible to go back to when you've stayed away from it as long as I have.
It's like when I Spanish class in 8th grade and then don't take it again until college, and you're like, how did I know this language at all?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't remember anything I learned in French class. But that is our top 5 game of the year list, respectively. My list is Doom at number 5, The Witness at number 4, Uncharted 4 at number 3, Inside at number 2, and Overwatch at number 1. And Max's list is
Firewatch at number 5, Hitman at number 4, Forza Horizon 3 at number 3, Inside at number 2, and Uncharted 4, A Thief's End at number 1.
So I think a bunch, if you listen to the show consistently, you kind of had an idea of what to expect with each of our lists. I think my favorite list had some surprises on it, just between Pokemon Go and MLB The Show. Most people may not think to put those on their lists. And Inside, well, ton of praise. Like, I don't know. Like, that was still just the one that stood out to me this year. It was a weird year. It was a really good year. There was a bunch of consistently good games that came out. But I've said it before. I don't think there was any one specific thing this whole year.
There was no Journey. There was no Last of Us or Witcher, where people are just like, hey.
There wasn't. And I know you've been beating the drum for Uncharted 4 all year, but even you can see that, like, the reaction to that game has not been not been on your level, at least. I really liked it. It's one of my favorites of the year. It was number 3 on my list. That's a really good spot to be. That's a really good spot for it to be at. But at the same time,
it's the highest Metacritic score this year, apparently.
Yeah, I mean,
I heard that on a podcast.
That makes perfect sense. It's a fantastic game, but it didn't light the world on fire like I think some people expected it to necessarily. So there was just no one game this entire year. There was a lot of sequels, I felt like, between the Battlefields and the Titanfalls and the Dark Souls, where it's like it's more of this.
That's just how fall gets.
Well, it's like that with fall, but like even, I don't know, just a bunch of games at that. There was some unique new games, like Quantum Break, Ratchet and Clank. I thought was really well done as well. There was some unique games, but again, I still feel like there was nothing in the end that when you look back on it, you're just like, yes, that game. Yes, that is the obvious winner of Game of the Year this year. Like when The Last of Us came out, that was like unanimous. Like, no duh, this is the Game of the Year. And this last year kind of reminded me of the year that like The Walking Dead and Journey and stuff like that was winning Game of the Year. Like, it was a good year in games, but it was an odd one because when you look back on it, it's like, what really resonated with me this year? And so that's what I kind of had to ask myself when I made specifically my favorites list of the year.
Right.
Because again, a lot of good games came out this year. I think 2016 was a great year for games, but it was not, it's not lining up on paper like 2017 is, where I think there is legitimately like 2, 3, 4 potential masterpieces waiting for us this year if everything lines up right. Mass Effect, Zelda, Mario Switch, if that is a return to Mario form for that game. There are Persona 5, which is getting sort of slept on, I think, by me, in my mind at least.
For Mass Effect,
for me, at least. Yeah, that's the thing. It's going to be Mass Effect and Persona so close, and then Ukulele, and then the Switch, and oh my gosh.
You're going to be so poor.
Let's not talk about it. I'm probably not buying Persona. Like, I'm probably not.
Oh, I know you're not.
Not then, at least. Like, I'll wait till summer.
You're poor boy. Anyway, this has gone on 90 minutes longer than as advertised.
Is it 2.5 hours?
We're at 2.5.
Wow. Okay, then let's wrap things up. Way longer than I expected.
Someone has to wake up for work soon.
That is very true. And I'm gonna send him to bed grumpy in a tizzy because of Overwatch. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I'm gonna throw away my coffee.
Maybe I'll buy you some. Maybe I'll buy you some loot boxes as an olive branch.
Do not support that system, for the love of God. Don't support microtransactions in general. They're disgusting.
It's just in
microtransactions.
I think it's just the final thing I'll say about it. And I think you're so focused on it in Overwatch, but it's literally a thing in so many games now.
It's in Uncharted 4.
It's present in Uncharted. It's present in Destiny. It was present in Metal Gear Solid 5. It was present in. I just think it's just a thing in this industry, dude. Like, and I you have to remember it's a business. And while you may hate it,
I remember
you may dislike it.
I remember it's a business when I hand them $60 and say, thank you for the full game. Oh, wait, it's not the full game? Okay.
It's, I don't know. Like, it's a full game, though. Like,
microtransactions are a disease.
It's in Mario Run. I mean, it's in everything. Like, it really is.
It's not Mario Run.
It isn't.
Mario Run is it's a one-time thing.
I thought it was.
$10.
I thought you could buy coins.
If you can buy coins, that's pretty darn gross, but I'm pretty sure it's not in there.
I'm pretty sure there was an option. Maybe I'm totally wrong. With that, but I thought you could buy extra coins.
I will look right now while you wrap us up.
But yeah, that's just a thing in all games now. And while you may have disliked it most in Overwatch,
it's not in all games, but it is.
It's very a lot of games. Uncharted or MLB The Show, it was in there. Pokemon Go, like it is in.
That's pretty darn gross, man.
It's in so many games, man. And
I
don't think it has to be gross though. And this is again a bigger conversation for a different day. but look at a game like Let It Die. Like Let It Die is completely dependent on that. And I don't think that's
And that's there.
a bad thing. Like
That's up to them. But
it's
there
up
are
to
no microtransactions. You can buy stuff in Super Mario Run with your My Nintendo points. So
Okay,
that's
so
stuff
maybe
you
that's what it
get
is.
from buying games and stuff. You can't
I thought there was a
you can't like
monetary
give them
element to it.
$5 for 5 rally tickets.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
one-time $10 fee.
So yeah, I don't know. The free to play elements in games is like a bigger discussion for a different day that maybe we can dive into at some point. But I don't think it has to be gross. I really don't. And while you may specifically dislike the way Overwatch does it, it's not a bad business model in some ways for certain games. It just depends on what it is that they're selling specifically.
Like The Last of Us multiplayer is totally broken because of microtransactions. There's guns you can only buy that are completely broken. And see, that's gross.
Yeah, but that's just the nature of the beast, I guess, and that's just something I've accepted. And see again,
you should not accept it though.
But see again, that's why I wonder why you're so hard on Overwatch. And while I understand that you don't like the randomly generated element to it, in the end, at least it's not affecting the core of the game itself. And if it was
not affecting the gameplay, no.
And see, that's a great positive, and that's why I'm wondering why you do have such issues with it. And again, like I know we don't need to dive back into that, but like The Last of Us has been broken
because the stuff behind those microtransactions in games like this, you can unlock what you want through just pouring hundreds and hundreds of hours into. Mobile, typically a microtransaction is just to get where you want to get faster. That's all it is. And that translates into console games as well. Overwatch, it is 100% chance, whether I pay for it or whether I spend hundreds of hours. And that is gross. That is Vegas.
The thing is like
that's a slot machine.
There is always it's not always like that though, because if you get a double of your skin, hey, there you can scrap it into coins. Like you can always save the coins that you do get and buy the specific one that you do want. And I've done that in the game. I own the small amount of money that I have saved up in that game, I have put towards the one or two skins I have really wanted.
I've saved up. I think I bought the Ana teabag emote because that's a perfect emote.
Exactly. So like
that I've earned.
Yeah, exactly. And that's my point. Is it like,
the drop rate on that currency is so low.
But again, if you get doubles, you can scrap it and turn it into something else or something like that. You
can do that.
Yeah.
Which shows how much they tell you can do that. But man,
which shows how much you've played the game, because
I've played it. I think I've played it for about 20, 30 hours.
If you played it that much, I'm shocked that you haven't gotten any doubles yet, because I have.
I probably have gotten doubles. They just don't tell me I can scrap it for coin.
It should say as soon.
They do tell me I can buy stuff though,
or it may do it automatically. I can't remember.
I don't know.
But yeah,
whatever.
You can do that.
We need to go to bed.
We do.
Overwatch is gross.
Thanks for listening to episode 74. That was our 2016 Game of the Year episode. Yay. Now to look forward to 2017. And if you have not listened to episode 73 yet, then you should go give that a listen, because we talk about all the games that are going to come out in 2017 that we're looking forward to. We break down everything we want out of this year, all of our hopes, all of our ambitions, all of our resolutions, all of that good stuff.
Everything.
Yeah. So 2017 is shaping up to be a beast. It's looking good on paper. Let's hope that it is as good as it looks. We will be back recording live on YouTube on Sunday with episode number 75. We will be giving our predictions for Nintendo Switch event, which is happening next Thursday on the 12th. We will also be talking about all of the news that has happened this week. There's been a couple Switch rumors with Zelda specifically, which we may get into, and then we've also got a couple important release dates that are worth talking about or one release date, I guess, specifically that is worth talking about, and we will get into that on Sunday's show, so be sure to join us back then. And if you don't listen to or watch the show live on Sunday, you can always join or listen to the MP3 when we post that. We may post that one early next week, that way there's again like it's relevant for more than 24 hours before the event, maybe that can be one we
Yeah.
record and then put up rather quickly so that people have more than
So our Switch predictions
yeah,
don't live and die
more
within
than
12
what would it be,
hours.
35 hours it would be if we uploaded at noon on Wednesday. It would be irrelevant by 11 p.m. the next day. So maybe we can upload that one a little bit earlier next week.
Yeah.
But again, thank you for listening to episode 74. You can find the show on Twitter at MGS Podcast. You can find me, Logan, on Twitter. I am at Moreman12. You can find Max on Twitter. He's at Max the White. Hit us up there. We would love to talk to you, hear what your favorite games of 2016 are. Or maybe you want to argue with us. Maybe you fall in Max's camp and you think Overwatch is a disaster, and you think you hate the microtransactions, and you agree with him. Or maybe you think,
well, Jim Sterling's in my camp.
and maybe you think that Titanfall 2 should have gotten more love from us. I don't know. Hit us up on Twitter and let us know what you think. You can also hit us up at our email address, which is mgspodcast@gmail.com. Hit us up there with any questions, comments, or concerns that you may have about the show. We would love to hear from you there as well. And we are also on YouTube. We're at Millennial Gaming Speak there. You can find all of our shows there where we record live on Sundays typically. So if you want to see our beautiful faces while we talk and record the show, you can watch our faces and see us speak to one another. If you do want the MP3 though, we typically upload those midweek. This one should be going up as soon as humanly possible. So if you're listening to it there on SoundCloud or iTunes, thank you very much. If you're listening on iTunes, we would appreciate it if you could hit that subscribe button and leave us a quick 5-star review. That always helps the show out and helps us out with getting more listeners and all that good stuff. I think that is it for the housekeeping and into the show wrap up stuff. Again, 2016's in the books. Sort of. Still have a bunch of games from last year to play, and I think Max has a few to play as well. But as far as our Game of the Year lists go, this is as they're going to stand right now. So it's been a good show. We'll be back next week. It's nice to put this year behind us and start looking forward to the future and what we have to come. Most notably, the Switch, which is going to be next week. So join us for our predictions episode next week, episode 75. And then heck, maybe we will have an emergency recording session after the event next Thursday. We will let you know more about that during episode 75. We'll give you all the deets on that and let you know what's going to go down and how that's going to all work out. So be sure to join us again next time. Until then, thank you so much. We love you. Have a great week. Have a great night. Have a great day, whatever it may be, wherever you may be at. We love you. Bye.
Adios.